Welcome to The Show Off, the podcast where we make each other sit down, shut up, and watch episodes of our favorite TV shows and then explain, or be forced to listen to, why it's top-tier television. This show is for anyone who has ever wanted to go on endless tangents about their favorite shows, but their friends and family don't want to hear it. We get it. Ditch those losers and come hang out with us instead. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Campy.
And this is The Show Off.
Previously on the Show Off podcast.
That's right, y'all. Buckle up, grab your sonic screwdrivers and your companions because we're doing our favorite Doctor Who 2005 series episodes. The quick IMDb description is the further adventures in time and space of the alien adventurer known as the Doctor and his companions from planet Earth. Yeah, if you have a strong opinion about the episode we're going to talk about, you can,
You're just like setting this up. I'm so
curious
now.
Actually, you know what? Campy's trapped here. She's
Yes.
forced to watch and listen to me talk about this episode. I think you'll like this one. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you going?
I'm going good. Summer is approaching rapidly.
Yeah, it already feels like we're in the middle of summer.
I mean, it's only like 60 degrees today, though.
Like the middle of summer. By my standards.
We're approaching. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
getting there. But the time has come.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to do Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I'm stoked.
Let's jump right in.
Okay. I guess I'll just start by saying I'm like preemptively mad at myself because there's so many things I want to say about this episode and this era and these characters, and I'm just not gonna be able to get it all in one go.
I mean, we'll come back to Doctor Who.
Oh yeah. We definitely need to be doing episodes, at least one episode, if not multiple, from season 9. Because it's my favorite, but yeah, we're definitely gonna come back.
Is season 9 also Capaldi?
Yeah, also Capaldi and Jenna Coleman
Oh, okay.
as Clara. Yeah, but this episode is the 4th episode of season 8, series 8, whatever you want to call it, and it is called Listen, written by showrunner Stephen Moffat and directed by Douglas McKinnon, starring Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor, Jenna Coleman as Clara Oswald, and Samuel Anderson as Danny Pink / Orson Pink, who I did not shout out last time, so shout out to him. And yeah, I don't have a lot of like behind the scenes info about this episode production wise. I wish I had more because I have a lot of questions. But the little I was able to find, I just was able to find this tidbit that apparently Stephen Moffat referred to this episode as a chamber piece, which is like a cousin of a bottle episode. So like not quite as simple as a bottle episode, as in like bottles, it's like there's one set.
Right.
Like they're trapped in a room the
Trapped
whole time.
in an elevator.
Yeah. Trapped in an elevator, right. So this isn't quite that, but like close. It's apparently a chamber play is a story with usually 3 acts that can be done with a small cast and like very minimal set pieces. So basically, he said he wanted to write it because he hadn't done one in a long time, and he wanted to prove he could actually write. So, yeah.
Sorry, that I have thoughts on Moffat, and I have thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think he pulls it off in this episode. I really like this episode. Obviously.
Okay, well, we're going to have to get into more Moffat stuff when it's my turn to rant about Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But I will say this to the credit of the episode. It does feel like old Moffat.
Yeah, it feels like a
Moffat.
one-off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is when I think Moffat is at his best. The self-contained.
Yeah.
You know, we have our.
He writes a lot of bottles.
And it's good.
Midnight, basically.
Yeah.
The episode Midnight.
Yeah. Again, like this has
those vibes.
This is when I do like Moffat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping that was a little bit part of the reason I chose it, because I was like, I think she'll actually like this one.
I still have some critiques because there is still some of new Moffat showing through, because this was in the era of Sherlock too, and frankly, yeah, I think that's when Moffat was probably the most unhinged.
Okay. I do not deny that he's unhinged. I have things I could say about that.
Yeah. So this episode it does feel like a return to form with a little bit of the unhinged nature of Moffat in this era of his life.
Okay, cool. I'll also say quickly about this episode, just assume that the lighting and the cinematography at any point during this episode is going off. Just assume it
goes a little too hard.
I think it's amazing. I'll try to point it out here and there, but
I have notes.
It's very present. Yeah, I wanted to like have an opening question for you here. So I just wanted to get your initial thoughts. Like, did you get whiplash over the difference between 11 and Clara and 12 and Clara?
No.
No?
Just because it was a relief not to have to watch Matt Smith.
Oh my God. You guys. This
Any
girl's killing me.
To get a zinger in on Matt Smith. No, I mean, Capaldi is a different energy than Matt Smith, but it's an energy that I fully embraced.
Oh, okay.
So
amazing. I really wasn't sure what you were going to think.
I don't know. I haven't seen a ton of Capaldi yet, so it's hard to form a complete opinion. But
I would say this episode, this is the 4th episode in of series 8, which is his first season. To me, this episode feels like where he kind of locks in. I feel like there's always that when you get a new doctor, there's like some warm up, like the introduction to them. And then you'll get one where it's just like, boom, we're there.
This is their version of the doctor now.
Yeah. And like we're fully adjusted sort of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just as crazy clinically as Matt Smith's version of the doctor, but not manic, which is Matt Smith's version of the doctor.
Yeah. I remember like when, Capaldi was first taking over this role, he talked about how the difference between 11 and 12 is that 11's energy is like supernova-ing out, and 12's energy is the black hole drawing it in.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay.
And I'm not getting that analogy exactly correct, but it was something like that, and I thought that was really cool.
I like it. I like that analogy.
Yeah. Okay, let's dive into the episode. So we have a cold open here. The doctor is sort of talking to himself. We get a really nice opening shot of the TARDIS floating over the Earth at night. There's some cool like perspective stuff happening with us seeing planet Earth and then like also seeing into the inside of the TARDIS. That's really cool. Definitely showing off some of the better special effects at this point
now that
in
they have
the show.
The budget for decent special effects.
We start to up the budget for sure. And this not even getting even close to the point where we're at now, but like just you can see a clear difference to get shots like that. So yeah, we have the doctor narrating to himself, talking to himself inside the TARDIS. The lights are doing work. The lights are going crazy.
The lights were just like strobe lights.
A little bit. Yeah, there's a lot of movement. So he's saying, why do we talk out loud when we're alone? Conjecture, because we know we're not. He goes on to say that there are perfect hunters, perfect defense. Why isn't there perfect hiding? And he's kind of like, we're doing a montage of like him going around Earth and like watching different like animals.
Him in the Serengeti.
Yeah. He's like watching lions hunt, and then he's like under the ocean watching pufferfish, or is that a pufferfish?
That is a pufferfish.
With the spikes. So that's the perfect defense. And why isn't there perfect hiding? How would you know if there was? Logically, if evolution were to perfect a creature whose purpose was to hide from view, it could be with us every second and we wouldn't know. He puts down a piece of chalk he's been writing with and he keeps going. How would you detect it, even sense it, except in those moments when for no clear reason you choose to speak aloud? What would such a creature want? What would it do? And he sort of like asks the empty space in the TARDIS, it like shouts it as though there's something hiding there. And then he kind of laughs to himself, but he turns back to get his chalk and his chalk's not there. And then it just rolls across the floor at his feet and he looks at the chalkboard, which reads listen, and we get opening credits.
Very supernatural type of vibe being
very
established.
Supernatural, creepy. I mean, pretty.
It's the horror movie episode.
Yeah. I mean, like this is definitely a Moffat thing. He likes to play with the creepy and the unknown and like what is that thing over there in the dark that you can't quite see, but there's something there. So that's the whole kind of thing.
Yeah, and we'll get into it, but it's the version of the Moffat monster that I really like.
Yeah, creepy and just like definitely playing with the fear of the unknown. And he's always trying to scare children. Like, always keep that in mind. Like,
oh my God,
the man is always trying to terrify children.
You're right. He has one goal in life.
I mean, he has talked about when he's writing this type of episode, thinking about like what is going to scare kids.
Shit, that just blew my mind. Okay, yeah.
I think this opening scene is fun. Like I said, the lighting is working overtime. Peter Capaldi is really carrying this scene on his voice alone, basically, just kind of walking around.
That Scottish accent.
That Scottish accent, man, it really does work.
Which, it's nice to see Scottish representation again in Doctor Who.
Yeah, this is the first... this is the first accent.
No, Amy had a Scottish accent.
You're right. I apologize. First Scottish accent for the Doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just as like a sidebar, it wasn't uncommon in like British media to like just bypass other accents that weren't Londoner or like some version of a London accent.
Right. I mean, that's what David Tennant did, right?
Yeah, like it's just, because David Tennant used
an English accent.
Yeah. Oh God,
I don't know
David Tennant never gets to use a Scottish accent.
I know somebody was saying at one point, like, wouldn't it be great if, like, before the 60th anniversary specials came out, like, wouldn't it be great if he showed up as 14 and he's entirely the same, except he has a Scottish accent now?
Oh, that would have been great.
I would have lived.
But no, it's nice to see them just embrace the accents.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, when it's that good, why would you not use
fuck
it?
with it? Yeah, why fuck with it?
Okay. Yeah, so we're kind of setting the tone there. Now we're with Clara. She's returning to her apartment in a dress and heels and makeup. Clearly she's been out somewhere. We kind of flash back to her entering a restaurant to meet Danny Pink, who is at this point her coworker at the school that she teaches at. She's a teacher now.
Yep.
He's helpfully wearing a pink shirt.
Oh God,
which I thought was great.
Up on that. You're right.
Yeah. I didn't know how much that was on purpose or not, but I appreciated it.
Oh, it was on purpose.
Yeah. So we see her kind of walking in the restaurant. He waves at her in her apartment. You know, we flash forward, I guess, back to her apartment. She kind of like sighs, like clearly something's gone wrong. At the restaurant, like they're having dinner, and back in her apartment, she's like doing a face palm, thinking about what happened. And basically I won't like go into the full dialogue of the scene, but they're kind of super awkward and cute at first on this first date. Danny tries to make a joke about going straight for dessert, but he says extras instead, which is very cringy. Like, also she's wearing this like killer black mini dress situation.
Yeah. She was crushing it with that
oh
look.
my God. And it has this like crazy neckline thing that I can't even describe, but was such an interesting visual choice. So that was cool.
Yeah, and her makeup
flawless.
Yep.
The smoky eye working. Hair perfect. Excellent.
I mean, you can see why Danny is so nervous and keeps sticking his foot in his mouth.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, he's underdressed compared to her for sure.
Anybody is.
Yeah. So long story short, they end up getting into kind of a fight that results from both of them making different assumptions about each other. Her about his time as a soldier, and him saying like, oh, people like you misunderstand sometimes. And she's like, people like me. Basically, she ends up leaving the restaurant kind of in a huff. Danny does the hardest head desk I've ever seen in my life. Like the thunk his head makes when he hits the table is crazy.
He didn't face palm so much as the table face palmed him.
Yeah, it was nuts. I laughed pretty hard at that. So props to Samuel Anderson for just going for that.
Committing to the bit.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, I really like the editing of this scene with the back and forth between seeing her at her apartment. It's very like quiet and dark, and then seeing them at the restaurant and kind of unfolding this like first date disaster as we go, and kind of already foreshadowing some of the timey-wimey stuff we're gonna do later with just this little like back and forth,
like already priming the viewer to be prepared for jumping around in time.
We're gonna do way more of this.
Yes.
Now the date's over. We're back with Clara in her apartment. She opens a door to her bedroom, but the door bangs into the side of the TARDIS. The Doctor is sitting at her like makeup table thing. He asks, why do you have 3 mirrors? Why don't you just turn your head? She asks what he's doing there, and he says, and I quote, You said you had a date. I thought I'd better hide in the bedroom in case you brought him home. Like deadpan. So deadpan.
Yeah. But I mean, this is true to form. The doctor is always very naive about these matters. So
I took it as like he knew exactly what he was saying. But it was a joke.
No, it was a joke. Okay, all right. Let's have a conversation about this. How self-aware is the doctor on a scale of, I don't even know how to scale this.
Right?
Is he intentionally obtuse about human sexuality because it makes him uncomfortable, but he still likes to poke fun at them about it? Or is he genuinely just kind of clueless? Because remember back when River first kissed the doctor and his reaction to that?
Like hands, like he doesn't know what to do with his hands.
Yeah, hands in the air and just being like, okay, that was a thing. Okay, that was weird.
I mean, I think that's less about human sexuality than like his own.
I think it just befuddles him. I think he doesn't understand it.
Yeah. That's a good question.
In other words, the doctor is ace. This is canon.
Okay.
Head canon.
Yeah. On occasion. I think at this point he's aware, but he's definitely, I don't know. It's like sometimes he's aware and he's intentionally being obtuse, and sometimes it just goes over his head.
Right. Like he's somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah. It like depends on the situation. I don't know.
Which is, again, why I say he is ace. He's aware that it's a thing, but he doesn't understand it quite how it, works.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Most deadpan delivery I've ever heard in my life. Continues like, isn't it a bit early for you to be home, or did it all go wrong, or is this good by your standards? He's always dragging her, like constantly. I love it. I think it's hilarious, and it's like very best friends vibe, you know, like we can just
when you're comfortable enough with someone.
Yeah, you can just kind of like openly go for them, and it's fine. And yeah, so Clara says it was a disaster, and I'm extremely upset about it. In case you didn't ask, or since you didn't ask. And she kind of flops on her bed, and he says, fine, I need you for a thing. He just kind of like blows past it, which is pretty standard for him at this point. Clara says she can't. The doctor says, of course you can. Come on, you're free. You're more than usually free, in fact. Clara says, well, it's possible I might get a phone call. Doctor says, from the date guy, it's too late. You've taken your makeup off. She says, no, I haven't. I'm still wearing my makeup. He says, okay, well, you probably just missed a bit. Come on. So yeah, this is like a pretty standard interaction for them at this point. And yeah, like I said, very much best friend vibes, especially if your best friend has ADHD and no social filter. So yeah, it's funny. So she begrudgingly follows him into the TARDIS with her heels in hand, by the way. And she points out, I haven't actually said yes. And he just like barrels on.
Yeah, no, he's not.
No, he's so into whatever this like rabbit hole he's falling down. Hyperfixating, exactly.
ADHD hyperfixation time.
And he's like, sometimes when you talk to yourself, what if you're not? What if it's not you're talking to? What if no one is ever really alone? What if every single being has a companion, a silent passenger, a shadow? What if the prickle on the back of your neck is something close behind you? And she just goes, how long have you been traveling alone?
A valid question.
Yeah.
Honestly, because historically throughout the series, whenever the doctor gets a little bit unhinged, it's because he hasn't been traveling with a human companion.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Sidebar, I think is a great way for the show to explain why it's always a human companion in the sci-fi universe, other than, this is a show made on Earth. Like, it's a good way to explain, like, specifically, why does he need a human to be with him all the time? Why do we always have a human companion? What's the justification? And, like, it's not constantly stated, like, he needs a human to keep him sane.
Right.
But, like, you get little moments like this that you see when he's not with someone. He's a little less guided. Like, he needs someone there to help rein him in.
100%. Yeah. And I like this, for her saying this too. Like, she's been with him long enough at this point to know, like, you're getting to a place that I've seen you before, and it's because of this reason.
Yes.
But he says, perhaps I never have.
So melodramatic.
Very melodramatic, but like in just such a fun, like Peter Capaldi's having so much fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, he does a great, like, creepy sort of voice. It's hard to explain, but it's good. So we cut to her looking at the chalkboard on the sort of upper level of the TARDIS. And she goes, it looks like your handwriting. he says, well, I couldn't have forgotten, or I couldn't have written it and forgotten, could I? And she goes, have you met you? Which is like partly hilarious because she's making fun of him, and partly hilarious because yes, he has in fact met himself several times.
Fair point.
Yeah. She goes over to his desk where he's got like books strewn about everywhere and asks like what all this is. And he says dreams, accounts of dreams from different people from all over history. You see, I have a theory. She said, I bet you have. What theory? He says, I think everybody at some point in their lives has the exact same nightmare. Then we see a bunch of people, a little boy, a little girl, an old woman.
A little montage.
A little montage, yep. With the doctor explaining in voiceover. You wake up, or you think you do, and there's someone in the dark, or you think there might be. So you sit up and turn on the light, and the room looks different at night. It ticks and creaks and breathes. And you tell yourself there's nobody there, nobody watching, nobody listening, nobody there at all. And you very nearly believe it. You really try. And then we see a hand reach out from under all the different people's beds and grab the left ankle of each person. And yeah, it's a really good voiceover.
Have you had this dream?
Have I had this dream? I have not had this dream. I've had this fear before seeing this episode.
Yeah. I feel like that's a common fear.
Yeah, for sure. Have you?
No.
No. Okay. Do you know anybody who has?
No.
No, I can't think of anybody.
No. I feel like more of the general fear, though.
Yeah.
Like everyone has that fear.
Something under the bed. Yeah, for sure. The doctor and Clara go back down the stairs to the console. He says there are accounts of that dream throughout human history, time and again. There's that same dream. Now, there's a very obvious question I'm about to ask you. Do you know what it is? Clara says, have you had that dream? He says, exactly. She says, no, that was me asking you. Have you had that dream? I asked first. No, I did. They go back and forth. And she says, okay, fine. Yeah, probably. But everybody dreams about something under the bed. And he just says, why? So he's just like fully in this like fantasy about chasing some unnamed monster, which is kind of what he does all the time. So
he's like in Mythbuster mode.
yeah, exactly. Like full Mythbuster mode. Okay, we cut to see the doctor place Clara's hands on these like weird, I wrote the word squidgy sections in the TARDIS console.
Yeah, it doesn't look like something I'd want to touch.
It evokes a feeling for sure.
Yeah.
Which is you a little bit.
It looks like you're touching the TARDIS's brain or something.
Yeah, something like that. And I think that's kind of, you know, now that you're saying it, yeah, it's along those lines for sure. It's a really nice shot of their hands, though.
She has great rings.
She has great rings. And I don't know, there's something like he also has like really long finger. Like he has like alien hands. I swear to God. Like,
well,
yeah, right.
I hate to break it to you, but
I don't know.
It was just an alien.
Yeah, it's just a great shot. I liked it. And between the two of them, like hands are a thing for them because it's one of their only points of contact with each other. So they do a lot of shots with their hands as the focus, whether they're like usually holding hands in some context.
Okay.
But it's interesting. He says to hold on tight. If anything bites, let it. She asks what it is. He says it's a TARDIS telepathic interface. You're now in mental contact with the TARDIS, so don't think of anything rude. She asks why not. And he says it might end up on all the screens. And there's like a great shot here with Jenna just looking kind of like sheepish for a second. Like she's trying not to think of something.
It's like, don't think of an elephant. What are you going to do? Think of an elephant.
But he's at least vague enough that she, you know, it's not specific. The doctor explains that the TARDIS is extrapolating your entire timeline from the moment of your birth to the moment of your death. And Clara says to the TARDIS, which I do not need a preview of. Quick side note there, Clara is one of the few companions that actually speaks to the TARDIS as though the TARDIS is sentient, which it is. And I appreciate that. I love that for her. She kind of has like, you know, the doctor obviously has a relationship with the TARDIS, but she as a companion also sort of has a relationship with the TARDIS. And she's one of the few ones that interacts with it.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's cool.
A good call out.
So he turns off the safeguards and navigation, connecting her to the TARDIS. He says, focus on that dream, focus on details, picture them, feel them. The TARDIS will track your subconscious and extract the relevant information. And we should be able to get to that moment into your timeline when you first had that dream. And then we'll see. She asks, we'll see what? And he says, what's under your bed? He smiles like a Cheshire cat.
So melodramatic.
It's fun. I appreciate it. Yeah, and like this era of 12 is a lot of that, like kind of being, I don't know. This episode particularly like lends itself to that like creepy sort of, you know, weirdness. But yeah, he's a weirdo.
Again, the horror movie vibe.
Yeah. It is like a pretty tense moment, though, I would say. And I feel like within the span of a few minutes of them like doing this whole conversation, both Clara and us have totally forgotten about Danny Pink and like what all that stuff that happened. Right. And we're just like totally sucked into this like hypothetical monster hiding under the bed, which is, yeah, par for the course for sure. Okay. The doctor pulls the TARDIS lever and the noise, starts going. He says, don't get distracted. You're flying a time machine. Not 2 seconds later, her phone goes off. And he says, no, don't you dare. Just ignore it. And he chucks her phone across the room, which is funny.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
So rude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's rude for sure. But it's also funny. And
it was a very comical chuck.
Yeah. It like goes flying over his shoulder. Suddenly they land. The doctor says, okay, that's good. We're here. Clara says, sorry, I think I got distracted. But the doctor says, no, the date's fine. Come on, let's go.
The time zone is correct.
Yeah, that's what he says later.
Yeah.
I'll randomly point out here, I guess, that he's also wearing all black except for his shirt, which either has like tiny holes in it or white dots, which makes it look like stars.
Yeah.
So that's cute. But I was like, does it have holes in it? I can't tell.
Yeah, it kind of looks like some of the modern fashion.
Yeah, right.
Like pre-made holes.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on?
So companions can fly the TARDIS. That's my thought.
Uh-huh. You
don't need however many people to fly it. You need one person plugged in to the TARDIS brain.
Yeah.
Telepathically.
I mean, the TARDIS console does change pretty much every doctor, right?
Yeah, but I thought it was like you need like 8 people to technically fly it correctly.
That was correctly.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I this does very much feel to me like flying by the seat of your pants still. Like this feels like something that you shouldn't be doing all the time.
No.
Like connecting it directly to your brain.
But you can.
Do
it. The companions can fly the TARDIS.
Yeah.
I'm just very caught up on that detail. Okay, for the listener, the reason I am so caught up on this detail is there are so many times where there is a moment of crisis and the doctor's not there, but the TARDIS is and the companion is, and the companion can't control the TARDIS.
Well, I think the point of that is that the companion doesn't know.
No, and they shouldn't know, and they shouldn't be able to fly. That's part of the drama and the fun. So when Clara is able to fly the fucking TARDIS.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
not mad. I sound mad. I'm just...
I will say this is going to be very relevant to her journey.
Her tapped into the TARDIS?
And her knowing her way around navigating the TARDIS. It's going to be relevant later. I promise. I've seen what happens.
I have thoughts. I know I haven't seen it all yet, but I'm like, okay, so it's River Song again.
No. It's not that explicit. Well, anyway, we're going to move on. Okay. So now we're going to meet little Rupert. Okay, so Clara follows the doctor out of the TARDIS. It's at night. The doctor says, the West Country Children's Home, Gloucester by the ozone levels and the drains, mid-90s. This is a trick he's done before.
Sherlock Holmes over here.
And it's a trick he's done before, just kind of like assessing the location based on some unknown factors that we can't see. And he says, you must have been here when you had the dream. Clara says, never been to Gloucester in my life, and I have never lived in a children's home. The doctor says, you probably just forgot. Have you seen the size of human brains? They're hilarious. Little you must be in there somewhere with your little human brain. And Clara just says, isn't it bad if I meet myself? And the doctor says, like, just slightly coming down from his, like, chasing crazy monsters high that he's on, it is potentially catastrophic. he just, like, gets this look on his face where he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, that's right. I got to be thinking about this.
And Clara says, so why did you bring me out here? He says, I was still talking. I needed someone to nod. Probably best for you to wait in the TARDIS. She tries to argue, but he tells her to wait and heads off to the children's home. She says, like, calling after him, if I had been distracted, what would have happened? He says, we would have ended up in the wrong place, but I don't think we have because the time zone's right. And he walks off. Clara looks up at the home where a light is on.
We knew she got distracted.
Yeah, we knew she got distracted. Yeah, he's just like totally off in this. Yeah, this adventure.
And this, okay, this is where I'm going to interject.
Okay,
and say this is one of the things that I don't like that Moffat does.
Okay,
which is make the doctor exceedingly arrogant to the point where he's just insulting humans as a thing. Your brain is so small. You clearly have forgotten you grew up in a children's home. It's little stuff like that where it's comical, but I'm like, why do you have to make digs all the time, man?
I guess.
It's little stuff like that where I'm like, you're completely ignoring the facts. You're supposed to be really smart, and you just choose to ignore your human companion who's telling you. I don't know. It's just, it's the arrogance that Moffat likes to write into the Doctor.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't personally, I don't like it.
Yeah. And like, it doesn't bother me at all. I think it's funny.
Just, it's one of those things where I'm like, you're just such a jackass to your human companions, man.
Yeah. I mean, and like 12, especially this early on, is definitely a lot more even blunt than any other version of the Doctor we've seen in New Who, for sure. I think part of his regeneration is because of all the stuff that happened in the 50th special, and then like we had to basically make up a reason for the Doctor to get more regenerations, because when they made up the rule a bajillion years ago that he only had 13, we technically used them all up by the time Matt Smith was done, so we had to make up a new reason. So I think the kind of idea here was that it was like a factory reset. He got like a new batch of regenerations and
so he's like a baby.
Kind of reverted more to the original like William Hartnell version of himself, who was very
arrogant,
old man, straightforward, blunt. You're my companions and you're along for the ride with me. And like, I'm the smart one and I'm in charge. So
we'll dig into that one deeper.
Yeah.
On my turn to talk, because I got thoughts on that exact point that you're bringing up, but we'll save it for next time.
Okay. Laura looks up at the home where there's a light on in one of the windows. A little boy waves from the window, and we flash to Danny Pink waving in the restaurant. They kind of waved the same, which I thought was a nice touch. The boy opens his window and asks what she's doing. She says nothing. What's your name? He says Rupert. She sighs.
She looks relieved.
She's relieved as hell. She kind of laughs. And is like, oh, okay, hi, Rupert. But then he says, Rupert Pink. It's a stupid name. She says, no, it isn't. I know somebody called Pink. He says, I meant Rupert. I'm going to change it. And she's like, she's not freaking out yet at this point, but she asks, why is he awake? Is he scared? He doesn't answer, but he looks scared. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's like very creepy atmosphere. It's like foggy and dark.
Yeah, it's like the moors at night.
Yeah. And there's like a little bit of moonlight or something.
Yeah, creepy, old, like not Victorian era.
No.
Georgian era.
Old.
Georgian era, like children's home.
Yeah. Brick. Yeah. And yeah, like the one single light on from his room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good atmosphere.
And then it only gets creepier. Next shot, lots of blue lighting, which is classic horror movie vibe.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have any notes written down about that specific shot. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Like once we're inside the facility, it's just the lighting's very blue. The colors are very muted. Mm-hmm. And yes, it just adds to that creepy atmosphere of, the shadows, like the dark, like if you were to drag the darkness on the slider all the way up. So the shadows are all that much darker and you can't see what's going on in them.
Right.
Yeah.
There's something around every corner kind of vibe for sure. So yeah, the Doctor is walking along the corridor in the children's home. He's using the sonic to scan.
It's just not very homely either. I think that's also part of it.
Yeah.
It's like the set decoration itself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it looks more, like a facility, than like a place where children live. So yeah, he comes across this guy who's like the security guard or something. There's a TV on in the background. And he kind of starts chatting up this guy. I'm not going to go into the whole conversation.
He uses the psychic paper. That's always great.
Yep. He uses the psychic paper. The guy's like, what? An inspection at 2 a.m? And he's like, yeah. And he just kind of starts asking him questions about like, do you ever end up talking to yourself? The guy's like, all the time. It's this place. You can't help it. The Doctor says, what about your coffee? Like, do you put it down and you look around and it's not there? And the guy's like, everybody does that. And the Doctor's like, yep, everybody. Suddenly the television turns off. He asks who turns your TV off. He says it just does that. It goes off. And then he looks back around. The Doctor's gone. And he looks for his coffee mug, but the coffee mug's gone too. And, you know, the music's creepy and stuff, and you're kind of like, ooh, what's going on? You just see
the ring stain on the table of where the coffee mug was.
That's a nice shot.
And then smash cut.
Yeah, smash cut to the doctor walking down the hallway.
There's a good bit of comedy there.
Yeah, and he, like, from the bottom of the frame brings up the coffee mug and takes a sip. And it's like a bright yellow coffee mug too. Mm-hmm. It's such a nice contrast to like everything else. Yeah, and he like takes a drink from it and he's like, oh, pretty good.
Yeah, like, it's not bad.
It's good. Okay, and then and during that scene we saw Clara like sneak behind the doctor and run up the stairs.
Like, meanwhile,
so now we see Clara walking down the hallway upstairs and going into Rupert's room. She goes in and like introduces herself and says, "Nice room. You should have more than one chair. What do you do when people come around?" He says, "Sit on the bed." He's currently sitting on the floor. She asks, "Why aren't you sitting on it then? Do you think there's something underneath it?" Everyone thinks that sometimes that's just how people think at night. Again, this is like Clara is good at kids. We see her interact with kids a lot, but this is just another case of that. And like she's very good at interacting with this scared little boy and, you know, trying to calm him down. And
well, it seems like she's just very tuned into other people's emotions.
Yeah.
She's very empathetic.
Yeah.
And because of that, she's really good at coaching people out of it.
Mm-hmm. And she's really good at handling the doctor.
Because he is a child.
He is a large child. A lot
I don't care that he's over 1,000 years old. He is a child.
Right. And Rupert asks why. And she says, "Did you have a dream of a hand grabbing your foot? You have, haven't you? You had that exact dream." He asks, "How did you know?" And she just says, "Do you know why dreams are called dreams?" He's asked why. "Because they're not real. If they did, they wouldn't need a name." And she's like looking underneath the bed. She says, "Do you know what's under there?" And he asks, "What?" And she goes, "Me." And like rolls under the bed and lies on her back. It's like a really cute moment. Again, like making, you know, trying to make him feel safe. And she's like, "Come on, we're totally fine." And he gets in under the bed next to her and she's like, "See, there's nobody here except us." And he's like, "Well, sometimes I hear noises." And she's like, "It's a house full of people. Of course you hear noises." He says they're all asleep. She says they're all dreaming. Rupert asks, "Can you hear dreams?" And she says, "If you're clever enough, but they can't harm you."
That's such a cool little line.
Yeah, it's really great. And it's going to come back later. Yeah, she says, "You know, sometimes we think there's something behind us, and the space under your bed is what's behind you at night. Simple as that. There's nothing to be afraid of." I thought that was really great too. Like the space under your bed is just what's behind you at night.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that is an entirely logical explanation that she just came up with totally on the fly. Excellent.
Yeah, she's very good.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so she says there's nothing to be afraid of, but then the bed creaks as somebody sits on it, and it like kind of sags to within inches of both their noses.
Which I do love. Her reaction is she doesn't flinch. No, she like at first she doesn't flinch. She doesn't move. It almost just like looks like she's just staring at the bed as it sinks. And because Rupert's there watching her reaction, she's just very calm.
Yeah, she knows exactly how to do this.
Damn girl.
Yeah, yeah.
Way to flex.
Yeah. She says, "Who else is in this room?" Rupert says, "Nobody." She whispers, "Somebody must have come in." He says, "Nobody came in."
Yeah, now she starts looking
scared.
Now
she starts freaking out a little bit. But she rolls out from the bed and stands up. There's something sitting on the bed covered in the red crocheted bedspread.
Yeah. Something that's about the size of a child.
About the size of a child, yeah, exactly. With seemingly a round head. And Clara says hello. Rupert comes out and stands next to her. She's like, "Who is this? Is this a friend of yours playing a game, playing a trick on Rupert?" The figure like sort of starts standing up taller slowly.
Very creepy.
And she's definitely like starting to get more freaked out. She's like, "All right, this is not funny anymore."
I'm gonna add here a comment about the light. So much flare.
There's some flare.
So many lens flares. This I feel like, because what year was this episode?
20. Oh yeah, I didn't say the date. I think it was December 2014.
Would that have been around the time of Star Trek, like the movies?
Later.
Okay. Because
Star Trek,
I feel like
was earlier.
Abrams made it very popular to do lens flares.
Yeah.
And there was a period of time where lens flares were just everywhere.
Yeah. They were definitely happening here.
Yeah. And this scene is just lens flare.
I think it makes sense for this, though.
It's motivated.
Yeah.
There is a blue light that's turned on behind the bed. Right. So that is supposed to be the motivating light that's giving us the lens flares.
Yeah.
And it does add to the creepiness and the mystery of it.
It works. And they don't this is the only part they use it.
Yes. Yeah. Fortunately.
Yeah.
But it's used a lot
in this
very
era.
Short succession.
Yeah.
I like it. It works. It does work. It's just, it's over the top.
Yeah, it kind of gives you that, like, did you see Super 8?
Mm-mm.
Also, like, early Abrams stuff.
There you go.
Same thing.
Lens flares.
But it's also, like, aliens a little bit creepy.
Yeah.
Kids in the dark.
There's something about it that just adds to the atmosphere of not being able to, like, pin something down, right? Like, I can't fully get a picture of this thing. I only can get flashes of it.
And it's like a visual obstruction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sure. Yeah. I did notice that as well. But yeah, that happens. The light switches on behind them. Clara and Rupert
a nice orange light, a good contrast.
Yeah, exactly. A nice orange light. Good point. Clara and Rupert turn to see the doctor sitting in Rupert's chair, flicking through one of his books. The figure's still there, covered by the bedspread, but they are turned towards the doctor now, away from the figure. The doctor asks, "Where is he?" And Clara's like, "Doctor?" And doctor just says, "I can't find him. Can you find him?" Clara says, "Find who?" Doctor says, "Wally." "Wally? He's nowhere in this book." And Rupert says, "It's not a Where's Wally one." So Wally, Waldo, same thing. Mm-hmm. Doctor says, "Well, how would you know? Maybe you just haven't found him yet." Rupert says, "He's not in every book." Doctor says, "Really? Well, that's a few years of my life I'll be needing back." Yeah, and then he kind of goes into this speech about being scared. This to me, well, I will read the speech because I like it. He says, "Let me tell you about scared. Your heart is beating so hard I can feel it through your hands. There's so much blood and oxygen pumping through your brain, it's like rocket fuel. Right now, you could run faster and you could fight harder. You could jump higher than ever in your life. And you are so alert, it's like you can slow down time." He like does his voice. "What's wrong with scared? Scared is a superpower. It's your superpower. There's danger in this room, and guess what? It's you. Do you feel it? Do you think he feels it? Do you think he's scared? Nah, loser. Turn your back on him." So like Rupert's interacting with him the whole time he's doing this, but I love the doctor getting on Rupert's level here and giving him this pep talk, but also talking to him like he's a little kid, because he is a little kid. Yeah, like this is one of those moments where you're not sure that the doctor has this kind of ability in him anymore at this point from what we've seen from 12 so far. But this is like,
expand on that.
We haven't seen the doctor interact with kids. Like this is something that like 11 talked to some kids and he could do this. He could like interact with children in a way that was positive and uplifting and, you know, speaking to them as children, but also like
as like a guiding parental force.
Yeah, and like not talking down to them, talking to them like but
human,
in a way that's
like an individual. Yeah.
So yeah, you're like not sure, you know, like you were saying before, he's so like blunt and like can be very almost derogatory towards Clara.
But he can rein it in.
He can rein it in. He knows when. And it's kind of like one of those like return to form moments. Like you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, this tracks.
Yeah, and it shows that he's not just clever because he knows a lot.
Yeah.
He's also clever because he knows how to talk to people and meet people exactly where they are at.
Yeah, and where they need to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is when I really do like the doctor.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I also just sidebar, I love any speech that an adult gives to a child about being scared because I'm like, it's just, I don't know. There's something about it because everyone gets scared.
Yeah.
And specifically when it's adult talking to a child and admitting like it's okay to be afraid and here's how you use it to your advantage.
Right, exactly.
It's an empowering moment. So I think Game of Thrones also has a speech about being afraid and how it's like, if you weren't afraid, like then you're not understanding the situation that you're in. You should be.
You'd be a dumbass.
Yeah. And so I like whenever there's a speech about fear and how to like make that a strength, how to take something that you think is a weakness and turn it around.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I think like this is one of those cases too where as much as Moffat wants to terrify children, he also has these moments where like you're actually learning, you know, as, you know, if you are a child probably, I don't know, under the age of 12 watching this, like this is probably going to resonate with you in some way.
I'm laughing because do I tell this story now? I'm going to tell this story now. I am responsible for a lot of children having nightmare because of Doctor Who.
Explain.
I used to work at a kids camp in the summer. And I really got into Doctor Who at that time. And so during the day, I would just retell episodes of Doctor Who.
Just off the cuff?
Off the top of my head.
Damn,
off the
dude.
cuff. Because I would watch them the night before. And then I'd go to camp the next day and I would tell all the kids the stories.
Nice.
And I got so many kids obsessed with Doctor Who that summer.
Hell yeah.
And the age group I was working with was 7 to 12, but the 12-year-olds were too cool to listen.
Right, exactly.
So I was right. Most of the 11-year-olds. So it was basically 10 and under.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did have one parent come up to me being like, hey, can you maybe chill?
That's amazing. I love it.
And another dad came up and was like, I don't know whether to thank you or be mad at you for getting my kids into Doctor Who, because they're really into it, but I'm glad that they're having fun and being creative.
Oh my God, that's
because like the kids would make up their own stories, you know, and have fun with it.
Aw, that's so cute. What was what was the scariest one? Do you remember? I mean, this would have all been Tennant era, right? Yeah,
it would have primarily been 10. What one did the kids freak out about the most? Probably the angels, probably Blink.
Sure.
That was a really creepy one.
Yeah. Also a Moffat bottle.
Yeah. And probably another Moffat, The Empty Children, just like the gas mask child.
Right.
Freaked a lot of the kids out.
It is noticeably freaky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, so he gives this whole fear speech, and then he tells Rupert to turn his back on the figure on the bed. And you two, Clara, turn your back. They all turn their backs and like look towards the window. He said, just like, look at this lovely view out the window. Clara says, yeah, come and see all the dark. But then the doctor says, yep, the deep and lovely dark. We never see the stars without it.
What a beautiful line.
So good. And like him instantly turning this like scary thing into a cool thing, like hopeful thing, which is very Doctor. Yeah. So he says, now there are two possibilities. Possibility 1, it's just one of your friends standing there and he's playing a joke on you. Possibility 2, it isn't. Clara's like, so what's the plan? And Doctor says, you on the bed, I'm talking to you now. Go in peace. We won't look. Just go. If all you want to do is stay hidden, it's okay. Just leave. The figure just moves closer to them, but they can't hear anything. Clara asks if it's gone. The Doctor says, don't look around. Not yet. Rupert says he can't hear anything. Doctor says, don't look around. Rupert starts to look around. He says, look away now. Don't look at it. Don't look around. Don't look at the reflection. This also gives me kind of don't blink, flashbacks at this moment. Rupert asks, what is it? The thing pulls the bedspread off and we get like a glimpse of some kind of out of focus thing.
Yeah. And I want to, the whole time this thing is getting off the bed and moving closer to them, it's out of focus.
Yeah.
So the focus is on each of the characters' faces and their expressions of fear.
Yes.
And the thing is just a thing that happens to be in the background, but again, adds to the creepiness of it all because you can't get a fix on it.
Yeah. You're definitely like tense during this scene.
So when it does pull the blanket off, you still can't get a fix on it.
Yeah.
It's
still
out of
blurry.
Focus. It's blurry.
But it's like, maybe it's like not something that's not quite human. There's like a weird face
the
situation.
Shadows in the face make it look not human.
Yeah, but you still can't tell.
No. And just shout out to the direction here.
Yeah, killer.
Yeah,
killer. The Doctor says, imagine a thing that must never be seen. What would you do if you saw it? Rupert says, I don't know. Doctor says, neither do I. Close your eyes. You too, Clara, give it what it wants. Prove that you're not going to look at it. Make a promise that you're never going to look at it. Rupert says, I promise never to look. Promises are also a big theme this season. Just pointing that one out.
Noted.
And then the Doctor says, a breath in the back of your neck, like your hair standing on it. We actually do a shot of like hair standing on the end of your back of your neck. That means don't look round. And then the door slams shut. And Clara and Rupert both turn around and they say, gone. And Rupert says, he took my bedspread. And the Doctor says, oh, the human race, you're never happy, are you? Yeah. Rupert goes or stays there and the Doctor goes and sits on his chair and Rupert asks, am I safe now? And the Doctor are looking at Rupert's toys. The Doctor's like playing with this orange robot that he has, just like, because he needs to futz with something.
ADHD, he cannot be still.
This episode, more than anything, is like, wow, the ADHD is on full tilt. But yeah, the Doctor says, nobody's safe, especially not at night in the dark. Anything can get you. And all the way up here, you're all up here, all alone. So like immediately he goes from like encouraging.
He's into his bumbling idiot phase again.
He like goes back into the fixation, right? Yeah. He got himself out of the fixation for a second because there was something happening that maybe would have put them in danger. So that took him out of it. He like got in the zone.
Right.
But now he's like right back in it. Yeah, and he says, anything can get you all the way up here, you're all alone. Clara slaps the back of his head. He just says, what was that for?
Playful little slap.
Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah. It's very much, it's kind of like mom and dad vibes.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. And she does it without looking also. She just smacks it back of his head because she knows it's there. And she says, shut up, leave this to me. She has a box of toy plastic soldiers. She brings them over to Rupert. She says, are these yours? Rupert says, they're the Holmes. She says, well, they're yours now. And the doctor says, people don't need to be lied to. And it's like the most hypocritical thing he could have possibly said, but he just wants to argue.
Yeah, he's a contrarian.
He just wants to fight with her. And she goes, people don't need to be scared by a big gray-haired stick insect, but here you are. Stay still, shut up. It's great. So, she can dish it back.
She dishes it back.
She can dish it back, yeah.
Again, the doctor needs that. This is another reason why he needs a human companion.
Yeah. And at this point, it is
just to humble him every now and then.
And at this point, it is like part of their shtick. Mm-hmm. Like, they've been doing this for a second. Yeah, so she's like lining up the toy soldiers around his bed. And she says, this is your army. Doctor says, plastic army. He's like starts to get up from the chair. And she just goes, sit. And he immediately sits down because she's the boss. And she says they're going to guard under your bed. And she holds up one and it doesn't have a gun. She says, this is the boss one, the colonel. He's going to keep a special eye out. Rupert says, it's broken, that one. It doesn't have a gun. Clara says, well, that's why he's the boss. A soldier so brave, he doesn't need a gun. And he can keep the whole world safe. And we do like a nice pull focus from her to the doctor as she's saying this, who's still like sort of watching her suspiciously. And she says, what do we call him? And Rupert says, Dan. She's like, there's a music cue here that's like, da-da-da, not like that, but she goes, sorry. And he says, Dan the Soldier Man, that's what I call him. And Clara's like, yeah, good name.
Yeah, great. And I just wrote, this seems significant because I don't have context. I get it now that I've seen the whole episode. Yeah. But yeah, at the time I was like,
oh, you didn't get that it was Danny?
I didn't know what the guy's name in the restaurant was. They never said it.
They didn't say. Mm-mm. Okay. Yeah. So from previous context, from previous episodes, we knew his name.
So I was able to pick it up in the end.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Rupert says, yeah, would you read me a story? It'll help me get to sleep. Clara says, sure. But then the doctor goes up to him and says, once upon a time, and touches Rupert's forehead, and like he just falls back on the bed asleep. And the doctor says, the end, dad skills. My transcript here that I have in parentheses says, after all, if you're a grandfather, you've probably been a father first, which, ouch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. This was definitely one of those moments where he doesn't talk about this, like his family or being a parent or anything of that nature. So, yeah, I do think that line was meant to like hit you a little bit. Like, ooh, dad skills.
I think so.
Yeah, it's like funny, but also like sad.
A little moment of comedy. Yeah. And a little moment of brevity.
Yeah.
Is brevity the right word?
Brevity? Yes. Lightness, brevity, right? Or is brevity like just brief?
Okay. You know what? Levity. I said levity the entire time. A little moment of comedy and a little moment of levity.
Yes.
There we go. There's the edit. Done.
We did it. All right. So now we're back in the TARDIS and Clara's like, so is it possible we've just saved that kid from another kid in a bedspread? And she's sitting on the TARDIS stairs, and I love that there's like stacks and stacks of books.
Oh, I love
like
that.
all the way up the stairs.
Vibes.
Also, should we just talk about 12's TARDIS here? Like he has bookshelves. He has 2 levels, which I'm not sure. I guess we had that in Matt Smith's second TARDIS.
You had it in David Tennant's as well. You just don't
2 levels?
Go down to the underside very often.
No. I mean so like you have the console.
Yeah.
Right. But then there's stairs all around leading up to this like mezzanine sort of area.
Oh, yeah.
That's new.
Okay.
Yeah. And up there he has like bookshelves and where we saw the chalkboard, that's where that was. I don't think we see it in this episode, but he has an armchair up there, which is like presumably for reading.
He really is just an old man.
Yeah, he's just an old man.
I like the vibes.
Yeah.
And aspirations.
I love that it feels, I think this TARDIS out of any other ones we've seen thus far feels the most lived in. Like he's got books there. He lives there. Yeah. So I like that. And yeah, he says, yes, that's entirely possible. But the bigger question is, why do we end up with him and not you? Clara says, I got distracted. The doctor says, why that particular boy? You don't have any kind of connection with him, do you? And they do this like looking back and forth thing around the TARDIS console for a second, which I thought was funny and probably not planned. like they just accidentally kept.
They just like can't hit their cue.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. But they just do it a couple times and then they get it and then they keep going. And Clara's like, no, of course not. Why do you ask? and the doctor's like working on some TARDIS component, like aka futzing again. And he said the TARDIS was connected to your timeline. Theoretically, there should have been some kind of connection between the two of you. And Clara's like, will he remember any of that? And the doctor says, no, I scrambled his memory, gave him a big old dream about being the Dan the Soldier Man. And Clara like starts crying because she's realizing what's happening. To his credit, he like the doctor's like smiling and stuff. And as soon as she starts like being visibly distressed, he's like, are you okay? Like he kind of like completely drops the face. Clara says, I'm sorry to ask, doctor. I know this is probably against the laws of time or something. And she like puts her hands on his shoulders to like emphasize the point. And he looks like he's about to run as soon as she touches him. And she's like, can you do me a favor? So then we cut to outside the restaurant, back where we were before. Past Clara is leaving the restaurant. We see Danny bang his head on the table again. The doctor and current Clara step out of the TARDIS, and she has like a nice Hermione moment.
Oh my God, okay, you clocked it.
Oh yeah, I clocked it. Yeah, she says they're watching, past her walk away, and she says, is that what I look like from the back?
Harry Potter 3, when Hermione time travels, has a line where she says, is that what my hair looks like from behind?
Yeah, is that what my hair looks like from the back? Yeah. And the doctor says, it's fine. Clara says, I was thinking it was good. he says, really? And she's like, come on.
She knows she's hot.
She knows she's hot. We know she's hot. She walks to the restaurant and sits down opposite Danny and, apologizes basically and says reintroduces herself, says, I'm Clara Oswald. I'm a bit tricky, sometimes a bit up myself, and I do not like my surname, but I think that's basically everything you need to worry about, which also is a lie.
Yeah, no, there's so much more he needs to know. Yeah. I don't even know the whole show, and I know she's leaving out a lot of context.
Yeah, I mean, understandably, but this is also going to become one of her more negative traits. She lies a lot. So yeah. Anyway, so they kind of like rekindle their conversation, and it's going better, and like they're on good terms again. It's a pretty cute conversation.
Yeah, they're joking about names.
They're joking about names.
They're being charming.
Then she makes a comment about his real name. She says his real name, Rupert Pink. And like the glass drops in the background.
Okay. All right. Okay. So Edgar Wright is my favorite director of all times. And one thing that he's really, really good at that I love, because I have watched his movies so many times that I have paid attention to every single detail. He is really, really good at using background sounds that would be in the environment, totally diegetic.
Yep.
To emphasize what's happening in the scene that's like the dialogue, right?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and so this moment of she says Rupert Pink and you just hear a glass shatter in the background.
Yeah.
I love when they use diegetic sounds for like cues and like shifts.
It's basically the equivalent of a record scratch.
Yes.
But within the context of where they are.
And I love it. So shout out to the editor who was doing the sound design there, because fuck yeah.
Props. It was great. Yeah, and he's like, what? And she's like, oh, Rupert Pink. I think somebody told me that was your name at school. And he's like, no.
She's a surprisingly good liar, because she does her best to play this off.
Oh, yeah. Clara Oswald is a great liar.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's like, and he's fully out of it at this point. He's like, no, I haven't used that name for years. Like, there's no way you could know what that was. And she's like, I can't remember like where it came from. And he's like, are you making fun of me? And she's like, no, I'm really not trying to do that. And then he's like, where's your coat? Because she walked in from the TARDIS without her coat on, but she left the restaurant with her coat. And she's like, what? And he's like, you put your coat on. So there's like, everything's falling apart basically very rapidly. And she says, I'm really sorry. Like, there's something I should probably be honest about. And he's like, how about everything? And she goes, everything in my case is actually quite a lot, which is true. And he's like, well, that's weird. And she's like, no, it's not weird. I promise.
It's weird.
It's really weird. And he's like, gets up to leave. And she's like, no, where are you going? And he's like, I don't do weird. And she says, don't go. And he says, then do something for me. Tell me the truth, because I know when people are lying to me. However weird this thing may be, just tell me the truth. She just says it's not weird. And then we see in the background somebody in a spacesuit
Orange spaceman,
beckoning to her from the kitchen. And yeah, Danny doesn't see, but Clara sees. And Danny says
nobody sees but Clara.
Nobody sees but
sorry,
Clara.
I'm going to point this out. It is a restaurant full of people. This guy walked in through the kitchen in an orange spacesuit and a space helmet on.
I mean, we don't know. Other people could be looking. We just don't show them. We show Clara.
It's just Clara. No one's making a deal about it, though.
Yeah.
There's just a random dude in the corner of the restaurant beckoning to someone at a table.
If you saw that in a restaurant, would you start like yelling, or would you just be like, that's weird?
I would point it out to everybody at my table and then make sure everybody else in the restaurant is also noticing this thing.
I did also think he was sort of like in a doorway, like not fully in the room.
Right. He was kind of tucked, but still. He's orange. He is bright orange. He is in Hunter's orange.
Yeah. Anyway, Danny says, I've had enough, and he leaves.
I got more about this, but we'll get there.
Okay. Clara is like sighs and then quickly changes from that to pissed and heads to the kitchens, and she's like fully ready to murder the doctor. She's like, heads are going to roll. She goes into the TARDIS, and it's a great shot, by the way, from her like going through the restaurant, through into the kitchen, then through the doors of the TARDIS. I don't know. I thought it was like a great...
It was very smooth.
Yeah, it was smooth. And she, rolls in the TARDIS and like starts going off. She's like, I'm trying to have a date, a real life, interhuman, actual date. It's a normal, nice, everyday meeting up sort of thing. And I would just like to know, is there any other way you can make this more surreal than it already is? And the spaceman takes off his helmet. We see a man who is a dead ringer for Danny Pink, but with bigger hair and a beard.
And gray.
And yeah, a little bit gray.
Graying.
He says hello. Clara's face is like total shock. The doctor just like rolls in from somewhere. Get your eyes
under control.
Yeah, rolls in from somewhere. He says, Clara, well done, you found her. Now this is really a bit strange. And Clara says, Danny? And doctor goes, she's like full shock. And doctor's like, what's wrong with your face? It's all eyes. Why are you all eyes? Get them under control.
Which she does have those doe eyes. She does a good deer in the headlights.
Yeah, for sure. She has huge eyes.
Yeah.
So it's not an inaccurate statement. And Orson asks, who's Danny? This guy's going to be Orson Pink. Doctor says, this is Colonel Orson Pink from about 100 years in your future. Clara says, Orson Pink? And doctor says, yeah, I laughed too. Sorry, do you have any connection with him? Clara says, connection. And he's like, yeah, maybe you're a distant relative or something. And she's like, how would I know?
Good question. Yeah. How would she know?
Yeah, and the doctor's immediately like, oh, right, okay. And he says, well, do you have any old family photographs of her? I'm guessing this is where your problem comes in. He says, probably quite old and really fat looking. He's always dragging her.
This is one of my problems, yes. Only one. I got a few others.
Yeah. Orson says, no, I don't have any photos of her.
Why?
Huh?
Why?
Why doesn't
he have photos of his distant relatives?
What?
Okay, we'll get there. Okay. We'll get there.
All right. Clara says, how did you find him? Doctor says, you left us trace in the TARDIS telepathic circuits. I fired them up again. The TARDIS brought me straight to him, so he's something to do with your timeline. Clara says, okay. And he says, you'll never guess where I found him. And yeah, so now we go to a spaceship, basically. Space station capsule sort of situation, sitting on a rocky planet with a hazy hemisphere and a sun
Mars
on
vibe.
The horizon.
It's very red.
Kind of Mars-ish. Yeah, very
honestly,
red and pink.
Gave me a lot of the waters of Mars. This part of the episode.
A little bit.
Orange jumpsuit, spacesuit.
Yeah.
Red planet.
They definitely purposely used that orange jumpsuit.
Well, one, save on the budget.
Save on the budget. Well, yeah, they put like some patches on it or something.
Yeah,
to like
change it up a little bit.
Just a little bit.
But no, Doctor Who is really good at recycling old designs and costumes and set pieces.
And we're, like we said before, like we're at a point where we have some more budget, but
I mean, this is still the BBC, which is publicly funded.
Right, not the Disney budget.
No. So you still have to find ways to cut corners.
Yeah. And like obviously before they were implying that it was the Doctor in the spaceman outfit. Okay, so yeah, we're in like this capsule sort of spaceship situation. Clara asks, where are we? Doctor says, the end of the road. This is at the end of everything, the last planet. Clara says, the end of the universe. The doctor says the TARDIS isn't supposed to come this far, but some idiot turned the safeguards off. So
hey, this isn't the first time he's been to the end of the universe.
No. And he does have some self-awareness. He called himself an idiot.
Yeah.
He says, listen. Clara says, to what? And he kind of dramatic pause. And then he says, nothing. There's nothing to hear. There's nothing anywhere. Not a breath.
Melodramatic.
Yeah. Not a breath, not a slither, not a click or a tick. All the clocks have stopped. This is the silence at the end of time. It's a nice turn of phrase. And then they hear Orson in the background, like emptying some stuff into a bag. Clara says, then how did he get here? He's from 100 years in my future. Doctor says he's a pioneer time traveler. They pull up their records on the computer. It's like a BBC ticker on the bottom. That's funny. The doctor says he rode the first of the great time shots. They were supposed to fire him into the middle of next week. Clara says, what happened? He went a bit far.
Whoops.
Clara says, a bit? And he says, a big bit.
Would suck to be a time pioneer.
Yeah, no kidding.
Now, if they were sending... okay. All right. Question for you.
Ooh, all right.
If you were a time pioneer, would you want to be shot forward or backward, not knowing how far you're going in either direction?
Oh, fuck. Forward.
Why?
Because I probably wouldn't survive at like 50, maybe 75 years ago.
I agree with you. Disease.
Yeah,
no.
Exactly.
Unsanitary? No.
Yeah.
I'll take my chances on going forward.
Totally, for sure.
Yeah.
And, like I have a vague idea about history, but I kind of like the idea of like, what are we going to see,
Yeah. I mean, I would like to see the past, but with no guarantee of
returning.
Yeah. I don't want to be stuck there.
No. Okay. Yeah. Doctor says, look at him now. He's Robinson Crusoe at the end of time itself, the last man standing in the universe. I always thought that would be me. And Clara says, it's not a competition. He says, I know it's not a competition. Of course it isn't. Still time though. Clara says he looks like he's packing. He's been stranded for 6 months. Just met a time traveler. Of course he's packing. Orson asks if they can get him home. Doctor says yes. He says, yeah, I just showed you test flight to a restaurant. Orson says, yeah, but to my own time. And doctor says, easy, can I do that, Clara? And she says, yes, he can. But she's freaking out. She's looking at him totally weirded out.
I mean, Clara never says it out loud, but she's obviously putting pieces together, right?
Yeah. Big pieces that only she can put together at this point.
Exactly.
So Orson asks, everything okay? And she's like, oh yeah, I'm fine. And he says, do I know you? She says, nope, definitely not. And doctor says, is she doing the all eyes thing? It's because her face is so wide. She needs 3 mirrors.
I did like that
calling back.
That was good.
It was great.
Setup and punchline.
Yeah, excellent.
That's okay.
That
is my favorite type of comedy, is set up early in the episode and the payoff comes later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
always love a callback.
Yeah, it's basically repeating the same joke.
Yeah.
But it's still funny.
Exactly.
The doctor says we can't leave immediately though. The TARDIS needs to recharge. And Clara immediately goes, excuse me, what? And he says overnight, that should do it. And Orson says overnight. He's kind of freaking out.
Yeah, the whole mood shifts.
For sure.
Suddenly it's very tense.
Yeah. The doctor says, one more night, that's not a problem, is it? Orson's face says yes, but he doesn't. He says, no, that's not a problem. And then the doctor says, it's a shame, isn't it? And he says, what's a shame? There's only 3 people left in the universe, and you're lying to the other 2. He's also lying, so I don't know where...
They're all lying. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Everybody's lying. Yeah, but the doctor says, that was the first thing I noticed when I stepped in here. You must have seen it too, Clara. You've got eyes up to here. You still make you put up her eyes. Clara says, seen what? Doctor says, the universe is dead. Everything that ever was is dead and gone. There's nothing beyond this door but nothingness forever. So why is it locked? Ha ha ha. Orson says, please don't make me spend another night here. Doctor says, afraid of the dark, but the dark is empty now. And Orson says, no, it isn't.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I mean, just the tension building in this episode is very masterfully done. Okay, so we're back in the TARDIS with Clara and Orson. They're carrying his stuff down into the lower level. Clara says, you'll be safe in here. Nothing gets through those doors. And Orson says, are you going to wait out there? Clara says, that would seem to be the plan. Orson asks why they can't just leave. And Clara says, like he said, it's recharging. Orson says, you didn't look like you believed him. She says, that's just how my face looks when he talks. Which is great. Another little dig. A clear plastic box containing a gunless plastic soldier falls from Orson's backpack when she puts it down. And again, there's another music cue here that's really good.
Yeah. Clara was putting the pieces together, but now she has no way of denying things.
Exactly. It's it's all happening. She picks it up and Orson says it's just a silly toy, a family heirloom. It's supposed to bring good luck. Clara says, right, yeah, didn't do a very good job, did it? Orson says, it did. You're here, aren't you? What were the chances of you two finding me? And then Clara just says, Orson, do me a favor. Take my advice. When you get home, stay away from time travel. And she gives him the toy back, and she's walking up the stairs. And Orson says, it runs in the family. Clara says, what? Sorry, what do you mean it runs in the family? Orson says, nothing. It's just silly stories one of my grandparents, well, great-grandparents. Clara says, what is it? Tell me. You asked if you knew me. It's a family heirloom. And they kind of just like hold hands over the toy soldier. And he just says, yeah.
He's giving her the toy, yeah?
Yes, I mean, she has it later.
I read this as, I am giving you the family heirloom because you're my family.
Yeah.
So he does know.
Well, it's, okay, here's the thing though. It's all subtext.
I know it's all subtext.
So
but he knows.
He thinks he knows.
Does he have pictures of his great-grandparents? How could he not?
Don't establish that. I mean, I don't have pictures of my great-grandparents. Do you?
Not great, because I don't think there was photography really available for them.
Yeah.
No, I take that back. I do.
Okay.
I do.
Well, I don't. I don't have that. At least not without me going and asking my mom for something, or my grandparents.
Oh no, yeah. My dad digitized all that stuff when my grandma passed, because she had all of it. So.
Okay.
All right, we're an exception. I get it. But, okay. All right, hear me out, though. Okay, the ubiquity of photography nowadays, and whether or not it's still available in 100 years, I would like to think that at least some family photos would survive generations down.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we're purposefully being vague here.
I know, but this is just one of 3 issues that I have with the spaceman.
Okay.
Is... He knows. He has to know. How does he not have pictures? All right.
Okay, but like I think you can make an argument that he doesn't know. And for some reason,
yeah, I know, because they play
for
it
some
like
reason he feels a connection to her.
He plays it like he doesn't know.
Okay.
I'm too frustrated by it. I get that it's subtext. I get that it's intentional. I like that it's subtext on Clara's level, and she never says it out loud. That's good. That's fine. It's still a plot hole. To
okay,
me.
we'll address that later.
All right, I still got 2 more beefs with Spaceman.
Okay. All right. Yeah, okay. So we go back to the capsule. The lighting is off the chain. It's nuts. Very blue, but also red.
It's bisexual lighting.
It's bisexual. Yeah, I like it a lot. Blue and red. Spooky, but also kind of like... Intimate is the word I have in my brain. I don't know if that's the exact right word, but it's providing a mood.
It is.
I don't know. There's something going on there.
Well, even as Clara says.
But dude, I'm gonna get there. I'm so excited.
I'm not gonna ruin your punchline.
Oh, it's so good. Okay. So the Doctor and Clara are sitting in chairs in the capsule, and Clara says, "What are we doing?" Doctor says, "Waiting. For what? For who? If everybody in the universe is dead, then there's nobody out there." Doctor says, that's one way of looking at it. Clara says, what's the other? The doctor says, that's a hell of a lot of ghosts. It's nice. It's good. I like it. The lights dim. And then, is this the line? Yeah. This is the wildest line of the entire episode. And we don't even get a reaction shot of her face after she says it. But the lights dim and she says, do you have your own moonlighting now? Because frankly, the accent is enough. Girl, for what? Girl, dude. Oh my God, I was on the floor when I first saw this episode, or when I rewatched this episode. I don't think I caught this when I watched it when it aired, originally. Yeah. I didn't catch it because I didn't have subtitles. Oh. But when I was rewatching this a couple years ago, and I was like, I was off my couch. Yeah, she said that. I was like, and 12 does a double take, and it's like the only reaction. And then we just move on so fast.
Yeah. Clara is the one who can get away with the playful, ribbing, slightly flirtatious.
That was full flirt. That was a full flirt. I don't know what. Yeah. There's no other way to interpret that. It's crazy. So, yeah, I'm using that as evidence for later, but we'll move on. Okay. So then the space station, capsule, whatever they're in, is creaking. Words appear on the main hatch that say, do not open the door. Clara asks where'd that come from. Doctor says it's always been there, but it's only visible in the night lights, which is apparently what came on. She says, but who wrote it? Doctor says, Colonel Pink. Apparently at night he needs a reminder. 6 months stranded alone. I suppose it must be tempting. Clara asks, what is? Doctor says, company. And then there's more creaking. It's very spooky.
Really good sound design here.
Yeah, really great. Yeah, Clara asks, what's that? They're both kind of like looking around slowly. The doctor asks, what kind of explanation would you like? She says, a reassuring one.
It's a good line.
Yeah. He says, well, the systems are switching to low power. There are temperature differentials all over the ship. It's like pipes banging when the heating goes off. Clara says, always thought there was something in the pipes.
Yeah,
Doctor says,
just the note on like the whole sound design too. It makes the ship that they're in feel like it's alive. Mm-hmm. And like it's a creature,
or like there's
in
something
and of itself.
running around.
Yeah, because that's the end point is
right.
There's unknown hidden things about that are making the noises.
Yeah.
But it's played well with the actual sound that you would expect in that environment.
So Clara says, I always thought there was something in the pipes. The doctor says, me too. And then all of a sudden he says, who are you having dinner with? And she just looks at him and she goes, are you making conversation? And he says, I thought I would give it a try. Clara says, I told you it was a date. Doctor asks, serious? And she says, it's a date. A serious date? Do I have to bring him to you for approval? And he's like, well, I would like to know about his prospects. If you like, I can pop ahead and check them out.
It's too late for that, man.
Frankly, you've already done enough. There's like a scream, something like straight up shrieks.
Yeah,
and
sounds
they both
like
jump.
a yell.
They both jump. And the doctor just quickly says, atmospheric pressure equalizing. Clara says, or, and he says, company. And then Clara says, why are we doing this? Why don't we just go? They're both like starting to get more freaked out now. And the doctor says, because I need to know. She asks, why, about what? And he says, kind of back to the original concept. Suppose there are creatures that live to hide, that only show themselves to the very young or the very old or the mad or anyone who wouldn't be believed. Clara's like, okay. And he says,
that
what?
Is just such a sombering line too.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, there's so many lines in this episode. And he says, what would those creatures do when everyone was gone, when there was only one man left standing in the universe? And then you hear bang, bang, bang on the door. Clara says, what's that? And he says, potentially the hull cooling. Clara says, potentially? He says, believably. It keeps banging.
It very much reminds me of 10.
It was notably not 4.
It was not 4.
No.
It was 3 knocks. If
3
you
knocks.
are not in tune with Doctor Who,
yeah,
there is a whole thing about how like what the doctor will die basically when there's 4 knocks, right?
Yeah.
And it's a whole plot point for part of the series for 10. So like the whole knocking thing.
Yeah, I felt it too.
Ingrained in Whovian's brain.
Yeah.
But it was 3 knocks, not 4.
Yeah. And the 4 knock thing actually does come back a little bit later. But
it's one of those things, at least for me, that like I cannot hear the boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Without thinking of Doctor Who and without being a little bit creeped out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's one of those great writing choices.
Yeah.
That just sticks in your brain. Doctor says,
I almost kind of wish they went with 4 knocks now.
On the door?
Yeah. Because at least for people who know enough about Who, that would have made it all the little more creepier.
Yeah. When they use it later, and it's a Peter Capaldi episode. Actually, I'm probably going to show you the episode. It's very much a one-off thing. Like he just mentions it, and then it's not really related to anything. But yeah, it does kind of make you wonder, like, why not use that?
Right.
Like
you're going to have something knocking. Why not?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be, because there were so many times in 10 where there were 4 knocks and it wasn't about him dying. There were just 4 knocks.
Yeah, but that was before we made that connection, though, right?
Yeah. Well, no. I think there were so many times where we thought this was the knock. These were the 4 knocks,
right?
And it wasn't.
Right.
And there were so many like false alarms, I guess.
Yeah.
So like it is completely within reason. You could have the 4 knocks there and it just be unrelated. It's just 4 knocks.
True.
But
then
the little
like,
element,
don't say anything about it.
in the back of your head of like, oh shit.
Yeah, it would just add to the oh shitness of this whole episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can see it. I think the counter
there.
argument is probably just like not overusing it.
Yeah.
And not intentionally making that connection like that far back. Although there are a lot of 12 to 10 parallels, like a lot for some obvious reasons and some less obvious reasons. But anyway.
We digress.
We digress. So the doctor says there's someone knocking, and we hear the bang, bang, bang again. Clara says, doctor, you don't actually believe all this, do you? Hiding creatures, things from under the bed. And like it just keeps banging on the door. And then we hear like a scraping noise also, which is scary.
Sounds are intensifying.
Yep. Everything's intensifying. The doctor starts reciting, what's that in the mirror or the corner of your eye? What's that footstep following but never passing by? Bang, bang, bang. Clara says, did we come to the end of the universe because of a nursery rhyme? We still hear the banging. The doctor sonics the hatch to unlocked. The mechanism starts to turn. Clara says, that's you turning it, right? Doctor says, no, get in the TARDIS. Clara says, why? Doctor says, I have to know. And she's like, kind of tries to drag him away.
She's looking terrified at this point.
Yeah, she's scared. She's scared.
Which she normally, for someone who's pretty capable of going with things.
Yeah.
And being cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. When she's terrified, it's also
when she's scared,
moment.
we're scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said earlier, we had that moment under the bed where she totally kept it like straight. And yeah, now she's starting to lose it. But she's also starting to lose it because he's putting himself in danger.
Yeah, he's just out of control.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, she's trying to like drag him away and he's like, no, the TARDIS now. She says, okay, somebody's out there. Now we know we can leave. He won't leave. He says, it's a pressure lock. Releasing it could have triggered the opening mechanism. She asks, is there even an atmosphere out there? Trying to appeal to logic. And he says, there's an air shell around the ship. Why are you still here? She says, because I'm not going to leave you in danger. And he like straight up yells at her. He says, then you will never travel with me again because that is the deal. TARDIS now. Do as you are told.
Yeah. And the doctor has these moments in every iteration.
Yeah.
Where he gets almost mean.
Yeah.
Mean and yeah, like these are my rules. This is my world.
Right.
Do as I say. And it does happen with each version of the Doctor. I
This is a
don't
good
like
one.
it. I don't like it when it happens,
Yeah.
but I do think it's great that it adds that depth of character.
I kind of like it. I low-key like it a little bit. I mean, especially with Capaldi, I think because he sort of has more gravity, he has more presence almost. Like when he yells, you feel it.
Yeah.
You know?
I felt the same way about David Tennant.
Yeah.
Like when he
goes
got
off.
serious and a little mean and went a little too far.
Yeah. Again, them 10-12 parallels, man.
Yeah.
They happen. Yeah, so he yells at her, do as you're told. She kind of runs to the TARDIS. He sort of half pushes her towards the TARDIS. And she just says, you're an idiot, and goes inside. And he says, I know. Okay, so then inside the TARDIS, Orson asks what's happening. Clara says he's opening the door. They're looking at one of the console screens. The Doctor back out in the capsule recites the rest of the nursery rhyme, I guess. Perhaps they're all just waiting. Perhaps when we're all dead, out they'll come a slithering from underneath the bed. And it's like a very, again, as you said before, melodramatic. Like Capaldi's just eating
He's
this.
just a drama king.
He's working it. But it's super fun. The airlock opens. Inside the TARDIS, Clara says, no, not now. Come on. The scanner is flickering like they can't really see what's happening.
And the scanner is essentially a camera to what's just outside the TARDIS.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically a security
It's
camera.
a Ring doorbell.
Yeah. The screen starts to flicker and Clara is saying, always when it's important. The TARDIS kind of jolts. Clara asks what's happening. Klaxon starts going off. Klaxon is never a word I would use, by the way, but it's in the transcript notes.
What is that?
He's about to answer that. Clara says, what's that? Orson says, the alarm, the air shell's breached. So it's like the wah, 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 like alarm that goes off. Klaxon. I feel like that's a British word, right?
I've never heard it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it is a fun word.
Klaxon.
But definitely not something we use.
Klaxon.
Here. It's a type of siren. Okay, so Orson says that's the alarm. The air shell's breached. Stay here. We show the scanner to show the Doctor hanging on to the edge of the console as like air is sucked out and like a bunch of stuff is sucked out of the capsule. In the actual capsule, we see a hand grab his wrist as he starts to slip, and he is
an
pulled,
orange spacesuited hand.
An orange spacesuited hand as he is pulled to safety. A short time later, the unconscious Doctor is back in the TARDIS. He's like sitting in one of the few chairs in the TARDIS.
He's got a little boo-boo.
He's got a boo-boo on his head. Clara asks, is he okay? Orson says he's out cold. He'll be fine, though. Clara says something hit him. Orson says everything was flying out of that door. Clara says it could have been that. We still hear some sounds repeating in the background. Clara says, what was out there? What were you so afraid of? Orson says, I've been here a long time. My own shadow, probably. The TARDIS doors move slightly because there's still stuff happening outside. Orson says, that's probably just the rest of the air escaping. Clara says, you say probably a lot.
Mm-hmm. The TARDIS noise goes off. Like the very specific bell sound.
Yeah, right after this.
It's a sound that I associate with 10 and like the whole doomsday and him dying. And it's probably because Chameleon Circuit uses this song in the song The Doctor is Dying.
There you go.
So I've just associated the specific TARDIS bell.
I do think it's meant to be used in times of danger.
Right. Because it's not used very often. No. And when it is, it's always, in my head, the way I associate it, of a very, very serious...
Yeah, like shit, something's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
sure. We are in imminent danger.
Right.
Again, good use of sound. Like, the sound design in this episode is great. Perfect.
Orson says, we're safe, right? Nothing can get in here. Clara says, probably. Yeah, and we hear like a hissing sound, like air is escaping. The cloister bell tolls. Clara goes to the console. Orson says, do you have a plan? Clara says, telepathic circuits. I left a trace in them before, basically just repeating what the doctor told her. Orson says, so, and she says, so apparently that can do a thing. She sticks her fingers back into the console. He says, that's your plan? She says, it's not a plan, it's a thing.
She flies the TARDIS.
She flies the TARDIS, baby. The time rotor starts to like go around. Clara's like talking to the TARDIS. She's like, okay, come on, you can do it. And then suddenly like we're flying, like it's clear we've moved. And then the TARDIS lands with a thump. The cloister bell stops and there are no more like external sounds from whatever we just left.
Mm-hmm.
Orson says, is that it? Clara says, I don't know. I think so. They look at the scanner again, but there's nothing really on there. Orson says, where are we? Clara says, somewhere else, I hope. And he like tries to go and follow her. She's like, no, you stay and look after the doctor. Orson says, you can't go out there by yourself. And she says, the thing is, my timeline, it keeps on and like stops. And then she says, Orson, you don't want to meet yourself. It's really embarrassing. I thought that was interesting because I wasn't sure if that was a reference to her Impossible Girl status, which is not something that you and I have reached yet in our watch.
I know Impossible Girl is a thing. I don't know more about it other than it's a thing with her.
With her. There's versions of her.
Right.
Around time.
Which that I know because I've seen enough now to know there's at least
you just
two
don't know
other
why.
versions.
So I'll keep that to myself for now. But I thought it was an interesting thing for her to say because at this point, so that storyline comes to a close at the end of 11, basically. At the end of season 7.
The Impossible Girl?
Yeah.
Girl storyline?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically that's happened already, and it's tragically it's not really used after that, which I think is a massive bummer because I wish it was
I'm
more
smiling because I'm like, that is on brand for Moffat.
Yeah, I mean, it's used in such a way that it definitely informs Clara's personality and her knowledge of things. But yeah, we'd never return to like have another adventure that involves those events. So yeah, anyway, I just thought that her saying like, oh, my timeline, I couldn't tell if that was like a reference to that or if she was just referring to the events of this particular episode.
I feel like it's a broader comment.
Reference.
Yeah.
But I do like the you don't want to meet yourself, it's really embarrassing line. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now we're into the bit. Clara steps out of the TARDIS into an old barn at night. Moonlight is streaming in from somewhere, or starlight, I guess. And she closes the TARDIS door, and we see a raised platform with a simple bed and a child lying curled up on their side under a blanket, sobbing. So Clara slowly climbs the ladder to the platform because, once again, this is a child in distress, and Clara does not abandon children in distress.
And it's not just Clara. This is a good connection to 11.
Yeah.
Very early on in 11, there is a child crying, and that's when the doctor decides to intervene.
Yes. Clara asks Rupert. She walks to the bed, says Orson. She doesn't know exactly who it is. The barn door opens and we see 2 pairs of feet enter. There's a woman wearing a long skirt with an apron over the top. A man and the woman are talking. The man says, why does he have to sleep out here? The woman says he doesn't want others to hear him crying. Oh, and Clara hides under the bed. Mm-hmm. So take note of that. The man says, why does he have to cry all the time? The woman says, you know why. The man says, there'll be no crying in the army. The woman says, hush. The man says, don't pretend to the kid. Don't pretend you're not awake. We're not idiots. The woman says, come and sleep in the house. You don't have to be alone. If you can hear me, you're very welcome in the house with the other boys. I'll leave the door on the latch. Come in at any time. The man says he can't just run away crying all the time if he wants to join the army. And by the way, we're watching Clara's face this whole time, listening to this. We're not seeing
You never
these
actually see the couple that's talking.
We're just hearing their voices and we're watching Clara's reaction as she's listening under the bed. And then the woman says, he doesn't want to join the army. I keep telling you. And the man says, well, he's not going to the academy, is he, that boy? He'll never make a Time Lord.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit. Oh, damn.
Fuck, we're on Gallifrey.
Oh.
Wait, are we on Gallifrey?
I believe we are.
Okay. Beef again. Beef again. Continue.
Okay. Clara's face goes all eyes again as she realizes who the boy is, whose timeline she's connected to. It's the doctor. It's a great reveal. The music is going nuts. Also, the soundtrack, I think, on this episode is really excellent. So now we cut back to the TARDIS. The doctor wakes up suddenly. He says, Santara is perverting the course of human history, which is a reference to one of the classic Who doctors. It's a line from, I think, Third Doctor, maybe.
Okay.
Orson's like, what? Doctor says, you're confusing me. Wait, what? Shut up. Where's Clara? Back in the barn, we hear the doctor shouting Clara's name. The boy says, hello, who's there? Hello. He sits on the edge of the bed and puts his feet down, and Clara grabs his ankle as if by reflex.
Yeah.
Shit.
It's like she's like, her eyes, like the second she does it, her eyes are just like, oh, yeah. No.
Jenna Coleman's doing great work here. Mm-hmm. Clara says, it's okay. This is just a dream. She's like doing very like talking to a spooked animal type of tone. Mm-hmm. She says, just lie back again. Just lie back on the bed. It will all be okay if you just lie down and go to sleep. Just do that for me. Just sleep. She releases his ankle and the boy gets back into bed. She goes to leave, but the boy is crying again. She can't leave him. And she sits on the edge of the bed and starts kind of like stroking his hair. And he's crying again. And she says, listen. So we're back to the TARDIS and Orson saying, what happened? What did you see? What's out there? Clara comes back in and she says, she walks, towards the doctor. She says, what if there's nothing? What if there was never anything? Nothing under the bed, nothing at the door. What if the big bad Time Lord just didn't want to admit he's afraid of the dark? He kind of looks there for a second and then he says, where are we? Where have we moved? Where have we landed? He like tries to move around her, but she kind of follows him just as quickly. And she says, don't look where we are, take off and promise me you will never look where we've been. He says, why? Clara says, just take off, don't ask questions. The doctor says, I don't take orders, Clara. And she says, do as you're told. And then
treating him like a soldier.
And
follow orders, man.
The TARDIS dematerializes. He does as he's told. Mm-hmm. And the boy kind of sits up in his bed and like hears the sound. Is at least what I got. Now this is like the end of the episode montage.
The denouement.
The what now?
The denouement. Am I saying that right?
I don't know. I've never heard that word before in my life.
Oh, just like, the ending bit where everything gets wrapped up nice and neat in a pretty bow. And
no, now I can picture the spelling. Okay. Yeah.
I don't speak French.
No, I'm sure you were correct. I just couldn't place it. We hear Clara's voiceover saying, listen. And yeah, this is before I launch into it, a companion monologue. We don't get a companion monologue very often.
No, we don't. That is a good point.
More Impossible Girl stuff. So yeah, we see her talking to him, but then we're also cutting to like them taking Orson back home. He gives Clara a hug and she says, this is just a dream, but very clever people can hear dreams. Reiterating what she said before to Rupert. She says, so please just listen. I know you're afraid, but being afraid is all right, because didn't anybody ever tell you? Fear is a superpower. Fear can make you faster and cleverer and stronger. And one day, you're going to come back to this barn. And on that day, you're going to be very afraid indeed. And we see the shot from the 50th.
Yeah.
Did you recognize this?
I did. Okay. Yeah, because John Hurt.
John Hurt, baby.
Love John Hurt.
Yep. We see the war doctor. He stands, outside the barn, looking at the barn. And that's a shot taken directly from the Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary special, where we did a lot of events that are relevant here. Mm-hmm. And Clara says, but that's okay, because if you're very wise and very strong, fear doesn't have to make you cruel or cowardly, which is also a callback to a line from the 50th. And I won't go into that whole connection, but it slaps. And Clara says, fear can make you kind. And then we get a shot of her and the doctor back in the TARDIS, and she's like, he's at the console again, and she's kind of sitting on the stairs and like looking at him thoughtfully, because now she's just seen his child self. And she goes up to him and like attack hugs him. And 12 does not like hugs at this point. So he's like, no, stop the hugging. I'm against the hugging. And they like sort of like, it's a great shot where they're sort of like, they're like going around the console and she's hugging him. He's like trying to run away from her. I don't know. It's good.
It's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The doctor drops Clara off outside Danny's flat, and they apologize to each other for all the shenanigans that went on at the restaurant. And she said, we're still hearing her voiceover. She says it doesn't matter if there's nothing under the bed or in the dark, so long as you know it's okay to be afraid of it. And yeah, her and Danny kiss. And then the last line of the monologue is, you're always going to be afraid, even if you learn to hide it. Fear is like a companion, a constant companion, always there, but that's okay because fear can bring us together. Fear can bring you home. I'm going to leave you something just so you'll always remember fear makes companions of us all. And she leaves the child doctor, Dan the soldier man, to stand guard the little plastic toy figure. And apparently this last line, fear makes companions of us all, is also an old line from Classic Who.
Really?
That he pulled in.
I like that then. Yeah, it's a good homage.
Yeah.
This whole speech is really nice because it's basically her saying the same thing the doctor said to Rupert earlier, but adding a lot more hope and like kindness to it. And just,
less like his version was more like, rawr, like, you know,
like,
make
we're
yourself
in this
strong.
moment, we're gonna be raw, we're gonna be a superhero, we're gonna face
which
it.
Which is like, we kind of established that like Rupert is at that stage, or like he's into soldiers, he's into heroes.
And it's almost like the doctor's speech is more of a like reactive, we're in this moment that's terrifying, where Clara's is more like, this is going to carry you through your entire life, so here we go. So it's very timey-wimey. We're doing like, she heard a thing that he said that she told him when he was a child, and then he's going to say who said it first, chicken or the egg?
So some timey-wimey shenanigans for sure. And that's the end of the episode. It's a great speech. It's a beautiful montage, honestly. Also,
I do like a montage over a nice speech.
It works. Tried and tested method.
All right, so I got thoughts on the spaceman.
Hit me.
All right, I got
counter arguments.
I got thoughts on the spaceman, and I got thoughts on the Moffat monster.
Okay.
We're gonna attack these separately, and then I got just thoughts about in general. Spaceman beef number 1 already talked about. He should at least have like some knowledge of what his great grandparents looked like. I would hope that he would look at Clara and be like, that kind of looks like my grandma, great grandma.
He doesn't seem to know though.
No, I know. So that's one beef.
Okay.
Second beef. He's in the restaurant and he sees a man, granted from behind, who is his spitting image.
Because he leaves. Danny leaves.
Dan is still in the restaurant when he's talking to Clara when the spaceman is in the background. And technically from the spaceman's perspective, it would have just been the back of Dan.
Right.
But I'm still like, you didn't recognize a guy that looked identical to you? All right. So it's a small beef. And my final beef. This man was so afraid of the end of the universe. Why did he agree to go back to the end of the universe? Why was it like, why did the doctor be like, oh, hey, man who's stranded here alone at the end of the universe, come to a restaurant with me to do a bit on this girl. I'm going to send you into the restaurant and you're going to flag her down and then we're going to come back to the end of the universe.
I mean, I'm assuming the doctor didn't tell him that.
But the logic doesn't make sense to me.
So, okay, like let's imagine this hypothetical conversation. So the doctor's like, yeah, I can get you off this place.
Yeah.
I'll prove it to you. I need to go get my friend first.
Sure.
Then we're going to go get her for me. And like, he has no choice, basically, right?
It just seems ludicrous to me. Like that other side of the conversation, I'm like, if you're so terrified of the end, like why would you agree to go back? If this is a time machine, why wouldn't you just be able to be like, no, just take me home from this time?
What's he gonna do?
I don't know, but it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
The math doesn't math to me.
I think that's one of those don't question it, we got to keep going moments.
I know, and that's one of the Moffat things that I'm always, but it's not just Moffat, it's a lot of Who has these little like, not necessarily inconsistencies, but like if you look at it too closely, it's like an AI painting where you're like, oh, there's too many fingers. Like,
oh my God. I have no problem with don't look here, we got to keep moving.
I mean, I can forgive Who for a lot. And I know
like
I'm
45
being
minutes of television.
I know I'm being nitpicky. All right. And then my comments on the Moffat monster. And this is where I think Moffat is on form, doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
He is really, really good at crafting monsters that are low budget.
Yep. That is a low budget monster.
Scary as all hell.
Scary as all hell. Because he's playing with your fear of the unknown.
Exactly. Yeah. And especially this, like, okay, Jaws is one of my favorite movies. And part of the reason Jaws is one of my favorite movies is it's a monster movie where you don't see the monster for the first hour, which is half of the movie.
Right.
You don't see the shark until I think I think it's the 47-minute point, if I remember this correctly, is the first time you catch a glimpse of the shark.
Nice.
And then they don't leave for the ocean until an hour in, which is a whole nother thing. Anyway, the point is, and it's the same thing with like Evil Dead, which is another one of my favorite films. Not seeing the creature makes it more scary. That much more terrifying.
Alien too, right?
Yeah, a lot of Alien.
I mean, it's definitely a not a trope, like a technique, I guess.
It is. No, it is. It absolutely is. And it's one thing, again, that Moffat does well.
Yeah.
And it's part of the constraints, I would say. Moffat really thrives when he's given constraints. And this is one of them, which is...
I have things to say about constraints.
Low budget, make something scary. And obviously they had more budget at this point.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, at least for this episode,
and
he
there's
put
still
those
some budget.
Constraints back on himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's
he
where
said,
he
I want to write a chamber thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Shout out to a great monster type character.
For sure.
Okay, here's my beef though with the monster.
Okay, hit me.
Is there or is there not a monster?
You're not supposed to know.
I get that it's supposed to be ambiguous.
Yeah.
Again, it's the AI painting thing where I think about it a little too hard and a little too much and it starts falling apart. This was all spurred on because Clara in the timeline grabbed young little boy doctor's ankle from under the bed and now he's trying to dissect his entire life apparently.
Yeah, for real.
And this is what gets him onto this weird tangent of unseen creatures, which something was on the bed, something was under the blanket, so there was something there.
Well, and they said, is it possible we just saved a kid from another kid under a bedspread?
So you have the ambiguity.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, I don't know.
I think
if you think about it too much, you're like, if this is a true monster creature, why is it showing itself now? And how is it happening to be omnipotent, I guess? They're jumping around in time and the monster creature is acting like it's in chronological order with them.
So my response to this would be, you are thinking about it too hard.
It's an AI painting, okay? If it's great from the outside, and then as soon as you start investigating a little bit, you're like, the logic
camps
doesn't totally. It's not airtight logic.
But it's also a metaphor. It's a metaphor for fear.
I don't care.
Oh man. See, this is like I'm in literary analysis mode and you're like, what is the monster? I'm like, how does this reflect on the characterization of the Doctor and Clara? And you're like, what's the thing?
This
is a difference in our brains.
It is, yes.
Yeah, that's not a criticism at all.
It's not that I don't like this episode. I thought it was well done. Like I said, it's nice to see Moffat coming back to his old form with just a hint of the unhingedness that I think he had for a lot of Matt Smith seasons. It's a good episode, but again, there are some issues with a lot of Who writing, not just Moffat, where if you look a little too close, there's holes.
So I take it you haven't watched the latest episode of the new series.
Did it come out?
Yeah, it's called 73 Yards.
No.
Get ready because there, I would say, some similarities in the vibes to this one in a lot of ways. Except it's an RTD episode.
Okay, and this is the thing. RTD has the most plot holes.
Okay.
But I love Russell T, okay? I will stand him.
Well, there you go. There you go. We both have problematic faves.
Yeah, but again, I think my issues mostly just come from I'm very antagonistic towards Moffat as a showrunner. And so I have a tendency to also pick apart just his individual episodes. Yeah.
That's fair. I disagree. I'm on the literal opposite camp.
We'll get into this more next week. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, to just kind of summarize some stuff from this episode, I would say that this episode runs fully on vibes and lighting and music, but it also runs on dialogue and parallels and timey-wimey shenanigans and monsters you can't explain.
A lot of classic Who shit.
It's like it's one of those, it has a little bit of everything kind of episodes for me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I see why you picked it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and like, this is not groundbreaking. People like this episode. It was very well received. It was probably the best episode of this season. in a lot of ways. So
it's also nice to have an episode where the Doctor is scared.
Yeah.
Because, like...
Yeah, and as she says, like, even if you don't show it.
Yeah.
And she basically has to call him out on it.
Right. It helps, at least to me, it helps humanize him. Because a lot of the times he is this extraordinary creature from another world that you can't keep up with.
Yeah. And that is one of the truly great parts of this episode, I think, is showing that, like, basically inner child version of him in the actual child version of him. But then obviously also making a commentary on, like, that little boy's still in there somewhere and he's still afraid of the dark.
Yep.
You know, his adult, you know, semi-adult brain concocted this whole imaginary monster just to kind of grapple with this fear that he's had for ever and ever and ever and ever. I think it's a great character episode for him for that reason. And then you can also kind of, like, once you know that, you can kind of go back into a lot of his previous dialogue throughout the episode and be like, oh, he's projecting there. Oh, he's projecting there. So yeah, it definitely, like, once you know the ending, you can go back and watch it again and be like, oh, now this is clicking. And yeah, I think it's almost an even better character episode for Clara. She's almost has more stuff to do than he does.
Yeah. Between,
you know, her being in the restaurant with Danny and then in the TARDIS and at the children's home, and, like, she has a lot to do. And I just love that once again it's her doing Impossible Girl stuff at the end there. And yeah, I can't wait till you get to that part in the story, till we get to that part in the story.
I just gotta make it through those Matt Smith
You're gonna
episodes.
do it. You're gonna do it. It's one of the things I love the most about her character, so I love that part of this episode for sure. Where do I want to go? Okay, here's where I'm going to go. I think I mentioned last time that I'll do my Moffat defense in your episode next weekend.
That's fair.
Or next week.
That's fair, because I'm going to pick a good episode for you to defend him.
Okay, cool. I would say, actually, well, whatever. We'll get there when we get there, but I'll save that because that will be timely. So we'll talk about what the hell's going on with 12 and Clara. Because I think I said last time that it's my favorite Doctor Who relationship.
Right, yeah. It's your favorite combo.
It's my favorite combo. I do see it as a romance. And before you come for me on the age cap, okay? Before you come for me, I understand there's a large age gap. It is written accordingly. It's entirely subtext. It's so subtext that a lot of people didn't think it was there. I do.
Meaning the romance?
The romance.
Okay.
And I think the point of it all, so, like, you have seen how Eleven and Clara interact. Mm-hmm. They're very fun, flirty, cute, like almost boyfriend and girlfriend sort of vibes.
Right, because 11 flirts with everybody.
Literally anything that moves.
Yeah.
Which I think is great.
And then is surprised when they reciprocate.
Yeah, then it's, like, so thrown back when like someone tries to flirt with him. He's like, oh my God, what do I do? But anyway, so they definitely have that going on throughout their only half season together. Definitely so much so that by, closer to the end, I was invested in it. I was like, yeah, this is cute. Keep doing more of this. And then we basically throw a big old wrench in that by having him regenerate into this older, crankier Scottish version of the Doctor. And we basically spend Capaldi's first episode challenging that. Like, their relationship. What are they now? What's going on? We kind of...
Is that the Dinosaurs in London episode?
That's the Dinosaurs in London one.
Okay, that is the last episode I've seen of Doctor Who.
Yeah, I like that one too. I think it's a good introduction episode. 12 spends a lot of it sort of half out of his mind because he's just regenerated.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing that I do remember is, like, he just wasn't there.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Yeah, for most of it until the very end.
Right.
Yeah, so basically the very end of that episode, they're in the TARDIS together, and she's, like, can't figure out what she wants to do as far as whether she's going to stay with him or not, because he's just so different. And like I said, he's sort of been half out of his mind this whole time, but he's very obviously different. She's
the same dilemma that Rose faced.
A little bit, but, like,
I mean,
Rose
Rose
got
was
David
like,
Tennant.
"Ooh, you hot."
Yeah. She went from a hot version of a doctor to arguably a hotter version
The
of a
hottest
doctor.
version of the doctor.
If you ask Campy.
David Tennant.
Yeah. If you ask a lot of people.
He is the hottest version of everything. Full stop.
Yeah. This is very different. Very different. Yeah. So basically at the end of that episode, this is a wild line too. He said, they're in the TARDIS and he says, "Clara, I'm not your boyfriend."
Ooh.
Right? Just drops it out of nothing. And she is like kind of shocked for a second. And then she says, "I never said that you were," which is kind of a lie. Again, this is a theme with Clara. But then he says, "I never said it was your mistake." So there were feelings before. Why would there not be feelings now?
Yeah.
So basically how they handled that is, yeah, we're gonna push that shit so far down that you can barely see it, except in very specific moments.
So it's like queer baiting, but for
straight relationships.
Straight people.
It's wild. Yeah, and like the reason being, obviously, huge age gap, and I think even Peter Capaldi, when he took on the role, was like, absolutely no romance. Like, I'm not doing that. We're not doing anything with the Doctor and Clara. Like,
respect.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like as he should. He didn't want that to reflect on either of them.
Yeah. And I don't know how to say this. Not that it's been done a lot. But the Doctor can't keep romancing people in every iteration. Right. He can't.
Yeah.
Like 9 and 10 had Rose.
Yeah.
And then 11 had River.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can't, if you're this being that's traveling throughout all time and is always shifting through companions, you can't keep falling in love. You can't. Like your heart needs a break, I would assume. You know?
Yeah.
And like also as an audience member, like, I don't know, this whole dance of who's his partner going to be.
Right.
Like, it's just going to get exhausting.
Exactly. Which is why I think this was a genius move.
Yeah.
For them to be like, yeah, we're not going to do that, but we're not going to not do that.
Yeah. It's sidebar. It's why Tennant and Catherine Tate worked so well coming off of Martha.
Yeah, because it was Friends.
Yes.
And you knew
because
it was Friends.
Martha had a crush on David Tennant.
Right.
And he did not reciprocate because he was in love with Rose. And then you get Catherine Tate in the mix and it's pure platonic.
Yeah.
And it works so well.
Yeah. Well, and like they just have this.
Plus, yeah, those two have a great chemistry.
They just have this fire to them. I don't even know. Shout out to Martha Jones, the only sane companion in all of Doctor Who.
I wish we could get her back in the mix every now and then.
That would be fun.
Oh, it'd be so great.
She needs to be at Unit. She's at Unit, right? She's supposed to be?
Yeah.
Working for Unit?
I thought so. But then I thought her and Mickey went off and did their own thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there might have been some like extended universe content about them, maybe in Torchwood or something. They might have shown up in other places, but anyway, that's
we
neither
digress.
here nor there. Yeah, you get this like very interesting subtext romance that has basically zero sexual energy or tension,
which I love.
I know. I knew you would love that. And it's just fascinating. It's like I want to study them under a microscope. Like, what are you guys doing? Just like this idea that, like, you know, in this new version of the Doctor, the new version of the show, the idea that we've just completely dropped the romance that we had before, and like, you know, the cute fun flirtiness that we had before. I just think it's so much more clever to be like, it's still there, but the dynamic has changed, so we have to adapt.
Yeah.
And it creates a much deeper relationship between the two of them.
Yes. I was going to say it's probably much harder to write, but therefore much more rewarding when you get it done and you get it done well.
It's also, it's never shown as like a good thing necessarily. 12 and Clara are kind of toxic. No, like low-key. They're
is this a hot spicy take?
No.
Okay.
Well, I don't know, maybe for some people, but I think it's pretty apparent. Like, they have very obvious, especially in this season, like they talk about addiction. Like, basically something happens in the season where he makes her do something and she doesn't, you know, is like hurt by it and basically leaves him. But then they get back together for one last adventure, And she kind of like sees him in a new light and then like decides to keep traveling with him. But before they're about to start traveling again, she says something like, is doing what you do, like going around saving people, is it like an addiction? And he says like, well, the thing about an addiction is you don't know if it's an addiction until you try giving it up. And she says, and you never have. And he says, let me know how it goes.
Oof.
And then she doesn't leave.
Oh,
dude.
Oh, aye.
There's some stuff there.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
We could unpack that, or
we won't take it any further than that. But like, I don't know. They just have such an interesting relationship, partnership. I think she's also one of the most capable companions out of all of them. Like, she has the most knowledge of the doctor, has the most like knowledge of things that are going on. Like, part of her arc too is that she becomes more and more like him, and like too much so. Okay. To the point that it ends badly for her. So that's like a whole other factor. There's so many like tangents here. That's why it's hard to talk about, because I'm like, there's so much going on and I don't even know how to explain it, but it's fascinating to me. And I think at the end of the day, it really is, as complicated as it is, it's still like a super deep love, a super deep connection, like we'll go to the ends of the earth for each other kind of thing. But also like there's this thing this whole time that we're not saying. Yeah. It's just like so much. So
the feels
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it just like creates really interesting dynamics between them and, everything else that's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I guess that's where I'll leave that. I'll probably bring that up again in a future episode.
I'm sure
talk
we'll
about
come
Series
back.
9.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
Maybe we can do like a bonus episode when I finally do watch my way through Capaldi.
Yeah.
We can just do like an end of 12 breakdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be great for sure. Yeah. I would love to just do another episode on the season 9 finale, because I think it's really good and I think it's really misunderstood by a lot of people.
There's a good topic though, or like another like thing for a future episode is season finales. Like
just
killer,
in general?
Yeah, just like killer season finales.
Ooh, I could do that.
Yeah.
I could drop that one there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, we could do that. Okay. Do you have a rating for this episode?
I do have a rating.
Hit me.
All right. My rating is a Weebles Wobble of wibbly wobbly timey wimey timeline.
I like it. Say it again. One Weeble Wobble.
Just the Weebles Wobbles.
Okay.
Of a wibbly wobbly timeline. It don't fall down.
It don't fall down. Hey, I like it. I like it a lot. I'm sticking to my numbers theme. My rating for this episode is 3 out of 3 mirrors to see Clara Oswald's beautiful face.
Good one.
Yeah.
Very good one.
All right. Shall we transition?
Yeah.
Next time on, what do you got for us?
Next time on the show off, I am being a problematic person again.
Okay.
Because I can't choose.
Oh, are you giving me an option?
I'm giving you options.
No way.
I'm giving you 3.
Oh, wow. I was kind of hoping you would just pick one and I would be surprised, but I kind of like this too.
Yeah, because I couldn't pick. And yes, they are all Moffat episodes.
Hey.
Which was intentional.
Okay.
Because I want to talk about Moffat.
Yeah. We both got things to say.
So your first option is probably the most obvious option.
Okay.
Can you guess?
Midnight.
No. I did not. Midnight is not on the list.
Hang on, I got another one. Blink.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Blink. Do we want to take on the burden of talking about Blink?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Second option.
Option 2, The Girl in the Fireplace.
Okay.
All right. All right. You on that one?
Yep.
Option 3.
Is this like the surprise one?
It's not a David Tennant episode.
Oh. The shock on my face that just happened just now, you guys. I can't believe it.
Season 1, The Doctor Dances. The second part of a 2-parter.
Right. Okay. The first part of that was The Empty Child?
Yes.
Okay. And that has Jack in it?
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
Because Jack. It's hard to resist talking about him. So
okay, The Doctor Dances, Girl in the Fireplace. Is Girl in the Fireplace the one where we do like the full alternate timeline with him. Or am I thinking of a different episode?
You might be thinking of a different one. It's the one with, why can't I think of her? Let Them Eat Cake. Marie Antoinette.
Madame de Pompadour.
Thank you.
Yeah, where he says, I snogged Madame de Pompadour.
Yes. Okay, the mistress.
Okay.
Yes?
Yeah.
And the ship is named after her, and they're trying to...
Yes. That one. I want to do that one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. I was kind of hoping you picked that one as much as I love Blink.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm ready to talk about Blink.
I think, and like Blink has been talked to death about.
Really
Nobody needs another episode on Blink.
If you don't know what Blink is and you have never seen Doctor Who and you are for some reason still listening to this podcast episode 2 hours in and you are interested in Doctor Who, okay, that's a lot of setup to say. Go and watch Blink as your first episode.
Yeah.
Just do it.
If you want to be freaked out and you want good television.
Yep.
And you have no context for Doctor Who, but you like
timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff.
Yeah. Timey-wimey sci-fi shenanigans.
Honestly, probably a perfect episode of television.
Yeah. It's a good way to get the vibes, for sure. Not that they're all going to be that good. They're all not going to be that great.
I mean, it is considered one of the best episodes of Doctor Who.
Ever, yeah.
Yeah, so it's all downhill from there if you do keep watching Who, but you start on a high note.
Featuring Carey Mulligan as she's very small.
Which one is she?
She's the main character.
She's Sally Sparrow?
Yeah.
I've seen her in other stuff, and then the girl that's her friend, I've seen her on in other things too.
She is... in The Great Gatsby, right?
Oh, I haven't seen that.
With Leo?
No.
You should. I think she plays Daisy. I could be wrong.
It's always fun though. Like I was watching Being Human, and the girl who's Sally's friend is in that show.
Yeah.
And I was like, where have I seen her? Where have I... Doctor Who.
BBC.
And then there was another character that came up where I'm like, oh, fuck, that actor looks really familiar. Doctor Who.
Yeah. I mean, it happens a lot.
British television and movies are... basically a high school's worth of actors.
Right. There's a joke that they only have 15 actors to choose from. And they gotta make do with it, I guess. Bummer.
Oh, too bad. Too bad that David Tennant's in so much
I know,
stuff. I mean,
so
it
tragic.
really sucks. Anyway, next episode then of the show off will be on season 2, episode 4, The Girl in the Fireplace. This is another
episode
fun
4.
one.
How interesting.
I know.
Of David's first season also. Fascinating.
Here we go. IMDb information. Season 2.
I do want to know who directed it though.
Season 2, episode 4. I clicked on 3. No, I didn't.
Is it not
IMDb is
episode
all
4?
messed up. It is episode 4.
They're counting the Christmas special.
So it got me all thrown off. So it says 5, and then you click it, and it says
that's what
4.
they're doing on fucking Disney right now too, and it pisses me off.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Girl in the Fireplace.
Girl in the Fireplace.
So we got David Tennant as the 11th Doctor.
Nope, as the 10th Doctor.
Shit.
Gotcha.
Okay, I'm gonna cut that. So we have David Tennant as the 10th Doctor.
Yep.
Billie Piper as Rose Tyler, my personal favorite companion.
Yeah, girl.
Mickey's in this episode.
No shit.
Yeah.
I truly have not seen this episode maybe since I originally watched it.
Really? I really like this one.
Yeah. I mean, I remember it being great.
Yeah, this is a fun one.
But yeah.
Noel Clarke plays Mickey.
Yep.
And then Renette, or Madame de Pompadour, is played by Sophia Miles. Which, another thing, I was watching Underworld, I think it was Underworld, recently with Michael Sheen, because that was on a Michael Sheen kick, and she's in it, and I was like, why does she look familiar?
Is
Doctor
Underworld
Who.
a movie? Is
Yes.
that a movie? Okay.
Yeah. Directed by Eros Lynn.
Eros?
Eros, E-U-R-O-S.
No idea. Cool name, though.
And, yeah, written by Moffat and Sidney Newman.
Sidney Newman. Okay.
So, yeah, that's next week.
Anything you want me to look out for? No.
No, I got because I haven't seen this episode in a while, and
this is a one, or it's not a two-parter.
No, this is self-contained.
Okay, interesting. I thought it was for some reason, but it's because I was thinking of the other one.
Like, it should be self-contained.
And you know what's funny is this episode is one of those 10 parallels to 12.
Is it?
In the first 12 episode. In the dinosaur one. at the end. I guess you don't remember what happens.
No.
Yeah, they reference this episode. So
Okay.
I might talk about it.
Cool. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to pick a Moffat episode that I liked and was fun and self-contained.
Yeah.
And that's the important note. Self-contained. There we go. Okay, that's the spoiler for next week. We're going to be talking about self-contained episodes.
Don't worry, y'all. I'm going to bring up the season arcs, all the goodness. I'm there for it.
I mean, we'll get into it.
All right. I think that's good enough.
We'll get into it. I also want you to think about Jack Sparrow, because we'll get into that too.
Think about Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
Interesting. For this episode in particular?
No, just for Moffat.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't know where this is going.
I have no idea where this is going.
Oh, we'll get there.
Well, I'm excited to see. Cool. We'll catch you guys next week. Please leave us a review if you enjoyed this episode. We'd love to hear from you. Or comment on YouTube.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts.
Whatever you think.
We love to have these conversations, as you can tell, 2 hours in.
Yeah.
So talk with us.
Yeah.
Please.
Are you a Doctor Who fan? Are you a potential Doctor Who fan? Are we getting you into this shit?
Your interest?
Do you like 12? Who's your favorite Doctor? Who's your favorite companion? Give us all the deets.
If you could time travel, forwards or backwards.
Which would you choose and why? There's so many questions. But yeah, we'll catch you in the next one for The Girl in the Fireplace.
Woo!
Awesome. See you guys.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Show Off. If you enjoyed this one, go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast and give us your review of our episode pick for this week's pod. You can also email us at theshowoffpod@gmail.com. See you all next week.